Well, hello everybody and welcome to the 373rd edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host Steve Wellings, and joining me on the call we have rapping Rob Kelly, Andy and Ozzy Smith as well, back for another Sunday evening of entertainment, going live on YouTube from 8 p.m. The Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes, and hello to everybody listening through the week on SoundCloud, Spotify and iTunes. Good evening to you, Andy. Hope you're keeping well. How's things out there in lockdown land still? We might be easing up shortly, who knows?
Yeah, I think we're always supposed to be like this for the next 2 weeks, but I was out. What day is this? I'm losing track of my days. Sunday, obviously. Friday, and that was the road was really busy and that, so certainly things seem to be picking up a wee bit in that. But schools and everything else still closed. But other than that, kind of still working away, doing what I can do and stuff like that as well. But it's all good. Yourselves?
Yeah, not too bad at all, Andy. Thanks, actually. Evening to Ozzy. How are you, Ozzy? You coping all right there with the old lockdown?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Restrictions have eased in England somewhat now, so you can go out pretty much all day and exercise. The minor relaxations, but it's better than what it was. Fingers crossed things keep going well and more things relax. But yeah, as we say every week, it's the norm now, isn't it? I think until everything gets back to normal, we'll be pretty much stuck like this for many months to come.
Yeah, shout out to the guys in the chat. Let's give them individual shout out right back to the beginning. Dan Sandbuck's in there, Swaggy Taggy, Banana Rama, Paul Raftery, John Wayne is there as well, Alan. We'll just stick to the first name, I think. Tosh Bear, Kaiser Koba, Saul Farah, Rory Campbell, Lee the Alcoholic Frotch, he's always knocking about, isn't he? Hanging around. Saul Farah is the GOAT. Jim McDonald, Coronation Street's finest. Shout out to GB Boxing as well. Salute to the pod. Smash the like button, people, says GB Boxing. Exactly. Hit the like button if you like what we're doing every Sunday evening. Hit the dislike button if you think we're shite. No problem at all. The choice is yours. Rapping Rob Kelly, you've hit that like button already. How's things down there in Wexford?
Yeah, same kind of as you guys. It's easing a little bit. There's not like checkpoints on every roundabout now. You can get about a bit easier. But just want to get back to normal now. Get back to playing five-a-side and all that. If they could do that and just keep social distancing and play forever, I'd be happy enough. Just do the shit that I want to do, and everybody else can go fuck off. But yeah, catching a lot of fights and old fights and dreaming about big events coming back, and happily take fights in lads' back gardens if that's the way it's going.
Absolutely. What have you been watching then, Roberto, this week? What's caught your interest? I know you've been digging through the archives.
Yeah, well, I was having a look back at some of the super middleweights ahead of our super middleweight tournament, which is always nice. One of the better divisions in history. Watched some recent stuff as well, some stuff from the last couple of years. Been on a bit of an Eric Morales career for the last couple of weeks. Bit of Chavez, bit of just the usual, really, just bits and pieces, but kind of old boxing interviews and stuff. Tell you what, it was a good one to go back and watch a bit of. It's always good to watch a bit of Macho Camacho.
Yeah.
You know how I like a bit of leopard print. So yeah, Hector Macho Camacho, some really good stuff on him on YouTube available as well. If you another kind of a boxer with a mad story who could have easily had a Hollywood movie made out of his life, but some really good stuff on YouTube on the HBO days where they were following him around Spanish Harlem and stuff. A real kind of underrated superstar of the sport and a great fighter. So watching a bit of that, and of course the fights that we're going to cover for the pod as well. So yeah, doing a bit of reading as well. I know I told you guys in the chat, but I was down to my dad's and found some of the books that I used to get for Christmas when I was a kid. So a brilliant one, if you could pick it up, 1988, Frank Warren's International Year of Boxing, 1988. It's absolutely brilliant. The photos are unbelievable, and there's somebody put together about 26 pages of boxers' records. So it was kind of the pound for pound guys at the time. Some really good photos and really good info in there. So yeah, just I suppose doing a bit to keep me sane while there's no boxing on.
Yeah, talking about records, shout out to the great Jerry Callan. Used to go around compiling records of every Irish boxer or boxer with an Irish connection all the time before BoxRec. And talking of BoxRec, there used to be a website, a few of the guys might remember this, called BritishBoxing.net. It was around 2004, 2005. The internet was just sort of getting buzzing, and a guy called Kevin Taylor run it. Now, I might be butchering the story and the amounts, but I think he laid down a fair few £1,000 going through all boxing newsies, boxing monthlies, all of the yearbooks and that, gathering together fighters' records. He thought it was going to be a good idea to put up on BritishBoxing.net fighters' records, and maybe people would pay for them. Of course, about a year later or so, or maybe even a few months, BoxRec.com appears on the scene and just destroy poor Kev's idea. He slipped off into the ether. Ian McNeely used to run it with him as well. That's where I started off writing, actually, in 2005. So shout out to Kev Taylor and all the boxing statisticians out there. So Eric Morales, Rob was mentioning there, we're going to be discussing Morales versus Pacquiao 1 a little bit later on. Super middleweight tournament. We're on to the super middleweights this week. One guest, a few questions, and Bellew of the week. So, Ozzy, before we get onto that stuff, let's go into Eddie Hearn's back garden. Matchroom Fight Camp will form the biggest challenge of Eddie's career, but he's intent on putting live boxing back on the UK television. Tell me more about this. I've seen the headlines. Is Eddie trying to run fights in his backyard? What exactly is the lowdown here, Oz?
Exactly that. I think it's going to take place. They're going to have 4 shows in the month of July, I think. And anything from, I think it's going to start with like British title fights, the lower level fights, and then they'll work the way up to, I think, eventually Dillian Whyte against Alexander Povetkin. Now, on the face of it, it sounds great. Look, creating a venue, I think it'll cost £1 million to do it in his back garden. They'll have, like changing rooms, etc. Limited amount of people that can be, within the vicinity of the ring and everything like that. But they're talking about starting this in July. But I still refer back, I don't understand how this can happen until gyms reopen and fighters can start sparring and doing pad work. It's okay ticking over at the moment, keeping fit, doing bag work, running, going out on the bike. But that's only going to get you so far. Now, I don't know many trainers, if any, that would send their fighters into a fight, particularly, like when they're not going to be, just going in against, just a journeyman or something. It could be for a British title on the back of no sparring, no real camp. Now, I mean, I believe Matchroom and the Hearns think that gyms will be able to reopen in June. Now, I just don't see that happening from the guidelines that have been released recently. They're talking that could be more July. Now, I mean, look, it's great if it does happen. And I think it does take... People are having to think outside the box. But as I say, solving the venue can be one thing, but fighters being fit and more apparently safety as well. You've got to remember, these guys won't have taken a shot for a while now. And the fact that some of them could have had potentially 12 months off, 6 months off or something like that, if they've not done anything for a while, and they're just going to get straight into a 50-50 British title fight. I mean, you think you're going to see Whyte and Povetkin going into the ring on the back of no sparring and no real camp? It's difficult to see, but I think if things can relax and gyms can reopen, then there's no reason why this idea can't work.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, Andy. I mean, the Bundesliga returned at the weekend. I'm not that desperate for sport that I'm going out looking for Korean baseball or anything like that. I can live my life perfectly well for the next few months and get on with it. But I did watch the Bundesliga highlights just to see what was happening. Ozzy's right there, isn't it? You don't want to see Dillian Whyte coming back into the ring out of shape, not having trained properly, with a big belly over his shorts. I mean, We've never seen that before. We don't want to see that again.
Yeah, well, I'll let you touch on that Bundesliga thing. I watched the Dortmund game yesterday, and from what I was hearing on the commentary, the teams came by separate buses. I mean, the full team and the full staff wasn't on the same bus. They all came in by separate transports, or supposedly spaced out in transports. They got changed in different changing rooms, kind of like separated apart and that. So logistically, that's going to be massive. Can you imagine trying to do that at kind of smaller clubs? It's just not going to even be possible. Hearn's going to have to put up... it's a big logistical challenge as well. It's going to cost them millions for probably try and get this thing up and running. You'll need to create dressing rooms, separated. It'll need to be all disinfected. For what I was reading and stuff, I don't think there's going to be even a ring announcer as well. So it's going to be a bit weird. I mean, I think it's like... like up to like 10 staff. The board will need to be there. They're talking about even providing their own doctors for doing the COVID tests and stuff. 8 or 9 doctors and stuff. And, obviously when the fighter gets there, they'll be quarantined apparently for 24 hours. There's also talk about a hotel, the fight hotel. So I'm assuming, I don't know where Eddie's mansion is in that in Essex, but I'm assuming it'll be kind of country base, where there'll probably be a hotel nearby or a country hotel nearby where the fighters will probably hole up. Eddie's probably trying to get a deal done there and that, but I think the main thing is, it'll be interesting to see which fighters, because at the end of the day, it's the fighters that's going to have to make a decision. Do they want to take the risks? And at this point, it's all about, he's planning and he's cunning this, that, the next thing. So he's talking about Dillian Whyte and Povetkin. At the same time, Povetkin, is he going to be able to kind of travel here? We just don't know what's going to happen in the coming months and stuff like that with regards to, people coming into the country. So obviously everything needs to be domestic and stuff. So it'll be down to the fighters. I mean, will Terry Harper want to take the risk? Who knows? Again, it'll be down to Eddie to try and make them the best possible offer. It's not going to cost him too much money at the same time, because he's not going to have the fans coming in, which most of the UK is showing that it kind of rides off the that type of money. And if it's no on Sky box office, then he's going to need the Sky money coming in. So I didn't foresee it being big paydays and stuff. So you're talking he's going to be limited as to what level of fighters he can put on there. And I think Whyte Povetkin is the last fight. Was it 4 cards, 5 cards he's planning? I think it is. So if he's planning as Povetkin Whyte for August or something, I'll tell you what, that'd be an achievement if he gets that fight to come off, because they guys will be demanding, before all this shit happened, big paydays. And I dare say their position hasn't changed either. So yeah, it's a big mammoth task. Fair play to him for trying it. Like, it'll be interesting to see what comes off, but it'll also be interesting to know the medical stuff behind it. Will ambulances be on call? They'll need to be, I suppose.
Yeah, they're going to have to come up with something. Tosh Bear says maybe a publicity stunt, while Lee the Alcoholic Froch says Whyte is looking suspiciously trim at the moment. Is it maybe a publicity stunt, Rob, or do you think we could be seeing them get back in the ring? I did think it was a bit strange, them rescheduling the fight so soon, but if Eddie wants to stick them in his back garden, then why the hell not? But you can't see. I mean, football's different, isn't it, Rob? Kicking the ball about. These guys punching lumps out of each other with no real camp or anything. I mean, it's going to be hard, isn't it?
I actually think it'd be better than a lot of matchroom shows, to be honest with you. Bit surprised Eddie is going down this road, of course, because he was dead against the UFC hosting their fights on Fight Island. It's just something that he wouldn't have done for moral reasons. But now that there hasn't been a pound no coming in, he's having the fights in his own back garden or in his own man's house. So it's been giving me a bit of inspiration, actually, because I'm getting my own back garden done next Friday and getting a mini digger and everything in here. So I could be coming up with a promotional stable to rival Matchroom in the near future.
Rapping Rob Kelly, bare knuckle fights in the garden. Once the digger gets away, the foliage and the debris, who knows what could be going down there. A few bodies in the camp, bodies in the yard. Ozzy, just changing tack briefly here. I mean, they're talking about ring returns on Tuesday night boxing. Bob Arum, top rank, Shakur Stevenson defending. He was going to fight Mariaga, wasn't he, defending his WBO title? They're talking about this Rafael Rivera now. Rivera, I think, might have fought Santa Cruz at one point, could be wrong there. Anyway, June the 9th, which I expect is a Tuesday night, Shakur Stevenson against Rivera. If he shakes off the rust, maybe a future fight against Josh Warrington. That's something I wouldn't mind seeing.
Yeah, look, they've tried to make this fight previously. When Josh was signed with Frank Warren, they actively tried to make the fight with Stevenson. And likewise, when Warrington jumped ship to Matchroom, they tried to make it again and said it was they couldn't work the details out, couldn't work the numbers out. Of course, I think we all want to see unifications, but I think they're a long way off. And I don't think we're going to see the big fights until fans are allowed back in arenas, because at the end of the day, there's only so much you can generate from elsewhere, and gate money is a big factor in what can be generated for purses and things like that. Yeah, great. I mean, I'm still dubious of it. It seems like things I mean, I've seen like a few videos that people are still sparring, like bits of sparring and stuff out in America, so I don't know what the rules are over there in terms of restrictions. I know other states have lifted some things and stuff like that. And great, look, if it works, I'm all for it. Of course, why wouldn't you be? You'd be a fool to say otherwise. I'm just dubious at the moment because I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. It's all right saying one thing, but doing it as another. Look, if they can get the shows in, I mean, Aram's talking about really, hammering the shows and getting in like 2 or 3 a week, which is unreal. I mean, what have they said about venues? Is it just going to be at one venue? I know the WWE are based at I think it's their training center in Florida, or something like that, and they're staying there, I think. Where are they putting on these shows? Like, where are Top Rank doing them? Surely they're not travelling around.
Top Rank have got their own gym as well, I'm pretty certain, but...
so it's going to be like Top Rank gym?
Aye, and he was talking about... obviously as well, I can't remember what Adam said, but obviously they could have facilities and that, they could put people up, but it would be American-based fighters only, so...
Of course, yeah. And
Taylor Ramirez isn't going to happen anytime soon.
That's right, because that was going to happen, wasn't it? Stevenson and Conlon, they were really tried to sneak that in at the back end of, it was beginning of March, wasn't it? And then they said, look, we can't, because they were going to do it behind the closed doors, and then eventually Bob pulled it like a couple of days before, didn't they?
Yep.
Exactly, and fights, we can, I mean, until the doors can reopen, big fights will not happen. It's all right, you'll get British title fights and things like that, but they don't depend on the gate because a promoter can back that up just with TV money. But these big world title fights, I'm amazed that White and Povetkin will happen, but I think that will be a pay-per-view at the end in August. That will be a pay-per-view because there's no other way that they're generating funds just from TV money at all. I mean, they bang on about, these fighters get paid and it'll be 2 7-figure purses. Eddie Hearn's not thick. He's not going to stump up that sort of cash to put that fight on. He doesn't need to. What's the point? You'd take 4 British title fights back to back at the moment, weekly, because there's nothing going. And if they're competitive, you're happy. So that'll probably be your first pay-per-view back in August. And it might do well because, look, people haven't watched anything. But it's difficult. It's difficult. Look, I mean, the rules are at the moment now what they're bringing in. If you fly in from another country, you've got to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. That means Povetkin can't do anything for 2 weeks. He can't do any, he can't finish his camp over here. He's got to be on his own. So it makes it difficult at the moment. It's stuff like that is unrealistic. You can see potentially like Top Rank are talking about, fights between just Americans and stuff like that. But we'll believe it when we see it, won't we? As I say, I applaud them for trying these things. You've got to. But is it realistic? I'm not too sure.
Thing is, Rob, people don't think about the inconvenience of the whole thing as well. Look at the likes of Povetkin. I mean, he's in his 40th year with all this testing going on. How is he supposed to frigging juice himself up to the gills with all this scrutiny? It's just not fair.
Let alone take part in a fight. Is he not supposed to be cocooning somewhere? Povetkin, not fair. Even Ed, leave Povetkin alone and bet you. I don't know, man. To be honest with you, at this stage, if they can make fights, get fights back on telly, I don't care if it's on the moon. You know what I mean? Or not on the moon or whatever. I don't care if it's in Eddie Hearn's backyard. If it's a good fight, I'll watch it. But it's not ideal. But they have to keep the wheels turning as well for the zone and dates. There's obligations, and they would have had revenue targets for the start of the year that they're way behind on, and they have to get the wheels in motion and the ball rolling. So it's just what it is. But hopefully it's not permanent. I prefer the way the UFC did it, to be honest with you, on the island, to be honest with you, up in Barry Hearn. Who's the poor tea lady that gets death on all the IFL videos, the one that he talks to, like, go on, make us a cup of tea. She's going to be wheeling out cups of tea and she a biscuit for the lads watching the fight there in the back garden, doing a few triangle sandwiches and all, like, this is dog. Interesting.
Exciting times ahead. Alan makes a good point. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw Chisora versus White 3. Absolutely. I could see Chisora being pushed. If Usyk can't come and Povetkin can't come, you could see them two being pushed together. One man who is on the pads, Rob, old Mike himself, Evander Holyfield as well, is also on the pads. Des, over at Turtle and Bear, might be on the pads, might be on the peds, who knows? He sent in a question here anyway, Rob. More of a comment, a statement. He said, if AJ, White, Fury, Parker and Wilder don't take this as a rocket up their arse, then boxing truly is dead. When the public starts craving including 50-year-olds, more so than the stars of today, we know we're in trouble, Rob. Let's get the big fights made and forget about all this nonsense. He's talking Tyson Holyfield 3.
Yeah, well, I think I made my thoughts clear on Mike's comeback last week, rather. As I said, is the guy passed his prime in 1989. Holyfield managed to hang on to his prime a little bit longer, but the two of them in an exhibition in the Middle East in their 50s, it's like that Bad De Niro movie from a few years ago, him and Stallone, isn't it? Like the boxing movie. Don't want to see two pensioners. And, Mike, like I said, a big, huge Mike Tyson fan. I don't want to ever kind of discredit him or whatever, but Mike had his chance to get his revenge on Evander Holyfield, and he blew that one, didn't he? Like, he looked for a way out in the fight and bit his ear off. Like, he could never beat Evander Holyfield once he passed his prime. Before he passed his prime, yeah, I would have given him a chance of beating Holyfield. But the first time they were going to make that fight, but anything past 1995, 96, Holyfield had his number. Timing-wise, accuracy, just more will to win, and Tyson didn't want it. So maybe there's a kind of a lost pad to Tyson that he wants retribution here. But I actually saw the Iceman John Scully put something up today to say, he said that people that say that Mike Tyson has a chance of regaining the heavyweight title because when he's angry, he's at his most dangerous, are the same type of people that go to a dressing room before a fight and tell the fella that he needs to get psyched up. So interesting social media comments following the announcement of Tyson's comeback. Absolute delusion.
This is the thing, Andy. We've seen Tyson rehabilitations. I mean, like 15 years ago after he lost to Lewis, they stuck him in with Cliff Etienne, banged him out, and then they put him in with Danny Williams. We all saw what happened. And even then, a year later, they tried to rehabilitate him again against Kevin McBride. And the one Tyson memory that sticks in my mind is him slumped against the ropes, sitting up like a little schoolboy with the blood trickling down his eye. That's the last memory of Tyson. I mean, he'll be a 1-minute fighter. I think he just go and blast away like he did in that first round against Lennox Lewis and then just completely blow the gas tank. I mean, exhibition or not, I don't want to see this, especially not in the desert either.
No, but I dare say he's got money to pay back. He'll have still millions to pay back in taxes, I suppose. So, we'll go where the money is. I don't think it'll happen, to be honest. Who's wanting to see Holyfield and Tyson go at it again? I mean, it'll be top zone and head guards and stuff like that, and probably like 16-ounce gloves, so... to be honest, it's good to see him kind of like training and that, I suppose. But people are just going overboard. And I think it kind of is made at the point is people are so hyped just to see Tyson and that still kind of like slipping and sliding and throwing power shots and stuff. But as you say, in the real world, if he was to come back now, he would probably, as you say, last about. You're lucky to last around actually. And this is a guy who's recently had neck surgery, I'm sure as well. And Holyfield's had problems with his heart and that. Do we really want to see guys going in there, geriatrics and that, potentially dropping dead and that? Nah, no thanks, man. We'll pass on for that one. Though it'll be good to see Stoic Mike walking in there with a joint in his mouth and that, ready to go to war and that,
Exactly. The lung capacity hasn't increased over the last few years. He's been putting the weed away like crazy. I mean, Mark Pritchard, Andy, says Holyfield is 58 this year. 58?
58. Jesus, man. I tell you, that's another thing as well. I didn't want to kind of like speak bad of the guy in that, but if he's wanting to come back and fight and that, he'll need it for the money as well. I mean, he must be way behind the alimony payments and stuff. The amount of kids he's spawned off. Sold his mansion, sold everything just about, didn't he? Bankruptcy. Another one lost millions and stuff. Jesus Christ. Nah, I mean, as I say, exhibitions and stuff, no problem at all, but people need to calm down about coming back, challenging heavyweights and stuff like that. Christ's sake. 58. What age is Tyson? 56?
53 is he, I think.
Is he younger than that, is he?
Spring chicken.
Yeah.
Riddick Bo's younger still. We should get Riddick back in the ring. I mean, he sounds well this time.
I tell you, who sounds worse, Holyfield or Riddick Bowe?
Well, but Bo, definitely Bo. Bo sounds terrible. Tony sounds bad, but Bo, I mean, he's another level.
Yeah. Drugs will do that to you.
Ozzy, I was going to ask you the question, but Arlene Burley's not happy. It's tabloid bullshit. Move on, she says. Not quite, Arlene, not quite. What about the winner to fight Dave Allen, Ozzy? Do you think Tyson Holyfield get Dave in Saudi Arabia to fight the winner?
Sounds good to me. Can we make it pay-per-view as well? Chuck loads of money at it. £25, one of the big top pay-per-views. Allen, Holyfield or Tyson. It's got a beautiful ring to it. Let's make it happen.
Absolutely, Rob. Just before we get off this subject, let's go back in time a little bit to Mike Tyson, friend of the pod, Joe Ringer. Rob threw in a question for you. He said he was having an argument this morning, a couple of mornings ago, about Mike Tyson being an all-time great. I said, says Joe, ability-wise, what he achieved at that age, then yes, but I couldn't call him an all-time great because he never beat a top fighter. His friend, by the way, wasn't enthused about this, Rob. He pulled the old "Have you ever boxed" card. What do you think about Joe's projections here about Tyson being an all-time great?
Well, that's basically the conversation ended. You know, Joe's been owned there by that comment. Obviously, he's got nothing else to come back on. You've never boxed. What the fucking type of response is that?
I think that look, I think we said it before. Tyson was larger than life, one of the biggest megastars of our lifetime in boxing, and it probably won't be the star he has won't be eclipsed maybe in our lifetime. Probably won't like that to have that hysteria surrounding a fighter. He definitely had the potential to go on and become one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. And for that small time where he was in his peak, you would say he's in the argument to compete against the top heavyweights of all time. But there's kind of a number of marks against him in terms of he never had his career-defining big win against the big arch nemesis kind of a thing in a rivalry situation. And he never had a situation where he was behind in the fight and managed to pull it out of the fire, like a lot of great champions in heavyweight history. So those are kind of two marks against him. As well as that, the time out of the ring didn't help him. But then in the later years, they're looking for a way out when fights were going against him and stuff. You just can't say over his entire career that he's one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. His ability, he showed potential to be up there in the first 3 years on the scene, maybe, but after that, it's hard to rank him along the greatest of all time. But I understand people have a kind of a special place for Tyson because he introduced a lot of people to boxing in the first place. So a lot of people got into boxing in the first place because of Mike Tyson. So I do understand people kind of having a nostalgic view of him. But if you break it down against the top heavyweights, I mean, Andy show could go on for hours. He hasn't got anything like some of the greats in his resume or in his locker. And a lot of his wins, by the way, he did come around at a good time for the heavyweights where a lot of the athletes were indulging in the old, Peruvian marching powder. So he did hit the heavyweight at a time that was suited to him. But, you know, I can't say that what he did after when he came back on the second reign puts him in the top heavyweights of all time. I don't think he's up there, but definitely was capable in his day.
Yeah, I don't know if not having boxed or boxing and being shit is worse, to be honest with you. I certainly pulled the gloves on, but I was pretty terrible, as I have told you many a time. Talking about this, Andy, Graham Taylor threw in a question about some of the best trainers in history that never fought. A couple that come to my mind, Angelo Dundee, obviously. I don't know if he fought at any particular level, did he? And maybe Ray Arcel comes into that category as well. So, you know, I mean, obviously, if you're an excellent fighter like Eddie Futch was a top quality amateur, one of the best trainers of all time. But some of these guys barely, if at all, laced up the gloves, people like Dundee. And obviously, they knew a thing or two about the game.
Yeah. Well, what you're talking, the one that kind of sprung to my mind would be Kozagi's dad, Enzo. I don't know if he ever boxed, did he? He was a musician or something like that.
That's right.
I'm sure Gil Clancy, did you mention him?
Yeah, no, Gil never boxed either, that's quite right.
I'm sure he was a school teacher, I'm sure. I think you're right about Arcel. I don't think Arcel ever fought.
Shane McGuigan boxed. Did he have a couple of...
Yeah, he was an amateur in Ireland, wasn't he?
He was Irish senior champion. What about Cuss? Did you mention Cuss?
No, I never mentioned Cuss, no.
How many fights did McGuigan have? He can't have. He didn't have many, did he? Or...
He fought. He got to the final of the Irish seniors at least once. So I think he lost to.
Right, yeah. So I
can't remember.
He was a fair amateur then.
Yeah, he was a good amateur. He was at a decent level. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, fair play then. Yeah.
Ben Davison's getting a mention here as well. Yeah, Cus D'Amato. That's right. Yeah, Eddie Futch definitely fought at a good level. Peter Fury, 1 fight, 1 loss. Yeah, there's a few of them. Manny Stewart fought well as an amateur, didn't he? I think he was a good amateur, Manny.
You can make this argument about any sport. Have you ever done it at this level? Well, no, you've not, so you can't have an opinion, or it's skewed. And I mean, it's absolute shite. I mean, some of the stuff we hear from pundits who are, have been established pros is absolute bollocks.
Good point.
And you see what they see and say and how they analyse a fight, and it's garbage. Some of the best opinions that I hear are from, say, people who've been involved with the sport, from a young age and have grown up. Just because you've never boxed professionally or, you've had some amateur fights. If I was to go on, if you were to, does it essentially make your opinion better if you go and lace up the gloves and have 5 amateur fights and then walk away? Well, I've boxed, so I can say what you've done. Rubbish. It's all about how you look at a fight, you analyse it. And as Andy just said then, he named some of the best trainers there who've never laced up a glove, apart from when they've been in a gym training.
What about it?
Go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, what about Lomas da? Did he ever box?
I have no idea.
No, I don't think so.
No idea.
What about
But
Lou
again-
Duva? He never boxed, surely.
Lou. He had to box the night of the frigging Galata both fights. He got knocked out pretty quickly, didn't he?
Aye.
Any others in the chat? Throw them in, gentlemen. Let us move on to another question here from Ryan Deal. We'll go to you on this one, Andy, I think. Ryan says, the light heavyweight chat brought me back to a question I've been meaning to ask. What instances have you had where you'd pick a lower level fighter against a pound for pound all-time great and make a case for it? So what instances have you had where you would genuinely pick a lower level fighter, whether it be because of style or you think, he's a bigger puncher or whatever, against a pound for pound great? Now, Ryan throws in quite an interesting one here, Andy. I'm not sure if you'll agree with this. I've always had it that Josh Warrington probably has the best style suited to beat Lomachenko. High pace for 12 rounds and punches with his opponent would give him an opportunity in the later rounds to have Loma stood in front of him. That's an interesting take, isn't it? Given he thinks that Warrington's style would give Lomachenko problems. Now, I don't think that's the worst take in the world ever, because someone's got to beat Loma. Someone's got to have that, that style to beat him. Maybe Josh Warrington's is just the one, says Ryan Deal. Any comments on that?
I think Loma beats. That'd be more. Well, I think I'd fight more happen at 130, and that's where Loma's natural weight is. Yeah, I think he's off with that one. Just his opinion, though, I suppose. I'm trying to think. Pound for pound, you talk like current pound for pound greats.
Well, I think from any time, I think Kaiser Koba's got in here. He says, I disagree. Kid Galahad would slow the pace. Loma would outbox him. So the boys are getting into the spirit of things here. I think Ryan's probably the same as us. He obviously thinks that Josh Warrington would lose to Loma, but he feels that he would have the style to maybe cause him more problems than people would think. Campbell, did he cause? The first 6 rounds he did okay, didn't he? Apart from when Loma started working late. That is why Loma is one of the best fighters around. But I think the point that Ryan makes is a good one. But he also says that this could be decent value of the week fodder. So maybe the chat are leaning more towards that.
So we're talking like active fighters as well. We talk active fighters.
You talk about whatever you want, dude.
Okay, what's the pound per pound list at the minute? Give me names off it. Crawford. Who would give Crawford the hardest fight? Off the top of my head, probably Spence, but we just don't know where Spence is at this point. We could just put the line under Spence just now.
Well, here's one then. Talking of Crawford, look at the way Kowalowski's gave him a few issues, even possibly dropped him at one point. Well, that could fit in with what Ryan's saying here. I'll
go Sean Porter against Crawford then, because of his style. It could be a dogfight, and I'm not saying that. Obviously, I'm not saying that Porter is going to beat Crawford. I would pick Crawford to beat him, but I just think outside all the styles at present in the welterweight division and what's available to him, I just think style-wise, Porter's probably the one that's going to give Crawford the most problems because of how he's going to take it to him, basically. And they're both big dudes for the weight as well.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's the perfect one. Definitely. Porter could give him a lot of trouble. Any to throw in there, Ozzy? Any comments on this one? Chris Bray says Warrington walking forward wouldn't work. Loma would do that side to side and easily outpoint him. Unanimous decision for me. Yeah, I think we all agree that Loma would win, but maybe the style would give him a few issues.
I've got another one.
Yeah.
It was a close fight, the first one, but you never mean to say he couldn't win a rematch. Bredas against Usyk.
Good one. Yep. Any Ozzy you want to throw in?
No. The one thing I would say, the thing that will beat Lomachenko is weight. I think there's only so far.
He's max just now.
Yeah, I think there's only so far. I mean, can you imagine him going up to like 140 or something like that? And that is what will beat in weight. Because like I said, there's only so far you can go up, isn't there? Unless you're juicing. It will be difficult to see. As Andy says, he's maxed out now, and look when he fought Campbell. Campbell's massive for lightweight. So I mean, look at and that's a decent win. But can you picture him? Imagine him against Josh Taylor, Andy, or something like that. Taylor's massive for 140.
Yeah, he's
So,
absolutely is. He is. I mean, how he does suck that weight like.
Yeah. So it'd be the size that will beat him eventually. And look, it's happened before. There's only so far I can go up. And particularly at those smaller weights as well. A few pound here and there can make all the difference.
Right, boys, let's move on. Just while I ring up our guest of the evening, our first and only guest, I'm going to let you two jump in on this. We're talking about Eddie Hearn putting boxing matches on in the back garden. What about this then, Andy? You can go first, and then Ozzy, you can jump in. The first event of the Bieber is set to take place at the Northern Hotel in Aberdeen once the Scottish Parliament authorised the return to business for sporting events, albeit behind closed doors, which is currently expected to be either in late June or early July. Well, what about this then, boys? The first event is co-headlined by returning former WBO world champion Scott Harrison versus PBC international champion Paul Piers, and a heavyweight contest between the one and only Danny Williams, most famous for his victory over Mike Tyson, against PBC international champion Lee Kellett. Get down there, Andy, get those tickets, even though it's closed doors. You need to kick that door in.
Oh, man. Listen, I didn't go to Dollyland at the best of times. It takes me to go there to see the Rangers are going to play up there, by the way. I used to have an acquaintance up at, who was the manager up at the Northern Hotel, actually, and I went down the hill drastically after that person left, and it is going to be carnage, man. Honest to God, it's up the top of the high street. Prices are overrated. Pints like £6 for pish water. Yeah, nothing can go wrong here. And I think they're a bit optimistic with the date, actually, because I think they're talking about June 10th before we can even get so much gyms open. But talking about football teams and that, about 10th of June before they can get back to training and stuff. So we'll wait and see how it goes. But I'd file under shit at the minute. Like Scott Harrison, washed beyond belief, and if he's washed, what the hell's Danny Williams at this point? Fuck, Jesus Christ. Yeah, can I see a lot of people keen up for this one, Steve? Mind you, I must admit though, that was the same hotel the night that I seen Hay beat Valuev, just for the record, actually.
Lovely stuff, Andy. Thanks very much. Delighted to welcome our first guest of the evening on the call. It's Tom Powell. How are you, Tom?
Good, mate. Nice one. And you?
Not too bad at all. We're keeping well here, keeping things going on a Sunday evening. How's lockdown going? Is it getting to you yet?
No, do you know what? It hasn't been too bad, to be honest. I've gone on all right. I thought I'd be pulling me hair out, but I've coped quite well. Spent loads of time with my little girl, so it hasn't been too bad.
What about fitness-wise? What have you been doing to tick over?
So I've just been keeping busy. I brought quite a bit of equipment home from the gym, put it in my back garden. Obviously, I haven't got a bag, so I've had no impact sort of stuff, but I've still been training pretty much every day. Obviously, I've had a little rest today, but yeah, just wanted to keep at it so my weight stays in sort of check and I keep a good base of fitness so that I can, when obviously we get to go ahead to start fighting again, I can hit the ground running.
Yeah, this is one of the things we're all looking to see when we're going to get back again. You fought on the 14th of March, so you're one of the guys who, fought recently, before the lockdown kicked in. So you weren't that far away from fighting shape.
Yeah, I was lucky really because I was meant to fight on the 21st of March over in Switzerland, and then the opponent for that pulled out. So as a bit of a last minute thing, Steve Wood got me a last minute fight just so it got out, just so I hadn't wasted the camp. And got a little win just to tick me over.
Yeah, you were supposed to fight out in Switzerland. The fella pulled out during fight week. I mean, how did you feel about that?
Yeah, I was fuming. I was sending the organizer and the managers over there all kinds of messages saying what's going on. But I think as it happened, the show probably never went ahead because of the coronavirus anyway. So it was a bit of a blessing in disguise that he pulled out when he did, so that I did get a little chance to get a run out. So yeah, it was I think the 14th of March was probably one of the last shows that was allowed to go ahead as well, to be honest. So yeah, I was lucky really to get out.
Eddie Hearn's trying to put shows on, obviously talking about putting them on in his back garden. Have you heard much about that? Do you have an opinion about Eddie's ideas?
Yeah, I think it looks unbelievable, doesn't it? It looks great, but it's going to be interesting to see how it'll work. I know every boxer's putting their name forward for it because it looks like a great opportunity. It'll be a little bit strange boxing in someone's back garden and with no crowd there, but it looks really appealing, like, doesn't it, to every boxer?
Yeah, absolutely, it will do. What about a Sean Dodd rematch? Is that something you'd be interested in? Because obviously the fight that you had didn't end in agreeable circumstances.
Yeah, well, when I was the last time I was speaking to Steve before the last fight, that was the reason behind getting me that fight last minute, just to get me out, so that it paved the way for the rematch with Masha during the summer. I think we were looking at July, was when it was rumoured that Sky were going to be coming back to Liverpool, so Steve was looking at putting us back in on sort of July, middle of July. But now, obviously, with all this, it's whether it's going to go ahead, or it might be a fight that Eddie might want to put on in his back garden.
Yeah, the guys are talking about boxing behind closed doors. Have you sort of started thinking about that, mentally preparing yourself for boxing in front of, no audiences? Is that something you would concern yourself with?
Yeah, you know what? It wouldn't really bother me. When the bell goes, it doesn't matter whether there's 2 people in the crowd or there's 2,000. Does it? It's just used to in there. So I think I've boxed in front of a handful of fans anyway. When I first turned professional, I've been on quite early doors. So yeah, it's not a major worry about having to box in front of no one. And obviously with the way boxing is, and you've got to settle to take away that problem, doesn't it? You're obviously not going to be able to shift the load to your friends, family, and be having to be running around collecting all sorts of money. I think obviously you can just focus on fighting.
Yeah, whenever we spoke to you before, you were quite reflective about your fight with O'Hara Davis. Obviously, things didn't go your way either against Philip Bowes. Do you think back now, how do you think, reflecting on those fights, how you performed?
Do you know what? I don't think it was necessarily a bad performance against Phil Bowes. I hadn't boxed for 6 or 7 months. So I think it probably just a little bit of ring rust and a little bit of timing. And I think Phil Bowes was good on the night. I was just happy to get it to come away. Like, I hadn't disgraced myself, and it wasn't a bad performance. And again, I can just learn from that and take learning from it going forward.
Do you still keep in touch with the coach, manager, and all that? I mean, what's the conversations like between yourselves about getting back? And anybody got any ideas?
Yeah, but me and my coach, we're close mates, so I speak to him every day. But he only lives round the corner. So I've given him a few little end of the path visits, and I'll chat to them and that. But I think we're just waiting for the green light really to get back in the gym safely. I think we've been having a look at some sort of documentation that's been sent out saying that elite athletes can start training. But I think it's a little bit of a grey area at the moment. It's still not quite clear whether you're allowed to go back into the gym and train properly. So we're just at the minute we're just keeping busy doing what we're doing, and then obviously as soon as we get the green light, we'll get back to it.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because the Border Control put out, an email saying different things, and they were talking about, you're not allowed to spit in certain areas of the ring and that. It's going to be really weird, and it's hard for them to police as well.
Yeah, I can't remember ever spitting in the ring anyway, to be honest. Maybe if I used a spit bucket in the corner, but it's not a big thing.
Tom, any social media presences just before we let you go? The guys can follow you along there.
Yeah, my name's Tom Powell 89 on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm just Tom Powell on Facebook. Anyone wants to give me a follow and look into what I post about my career and what's going on.
Lovely job. That's excellent. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll hopefully give you a shout whenever we get back up and running. You'll be fighting soon, hopefully.
Nice one, boys.
Cheers, Tom. All the best now.
See you later.
Bye. Tom Powell there, Aussie, trying to keep active along these times. Difficult. Nobody really knows what's going on. I suppose it's hard to know what to ask him.
No, I'll tell you what was interesting is that some documentation has now been sent out from where elite athletes can start to resume training, which that is interesting, and that could be a game changer, because if people can get back with the coaches and things like that, it certainly means that they might be able to start doing pad work. I know from like a cricket perspective, you can do one-on-one coaching now. So I mean, there's no reason why you potentially couldn't do pad work. So things are naturally changing daily. I think we'll see more updates soon. I think probably early June we might well see another update from the British Boxing Board of Control. But I think it's a difficult time for any fighter, whether you're at world level or you're a young pro trying to make a name for yourself. It's difficult. There's only so many times you can get up and just do things on your own. I mean, a lot of the lads like live for the gym. It's not just a case of you go out and train there, but it's like essentially it's like a second family. If you've got 4 or 5 lads in the gym all doing camps and things like that, and you're training together and you're all eating well and eating together. It's a big thing just to completely remove, particularly when it's just round the corner and the doors have been slammed shut through no real fault of your own. But yeah, I think it's key that fighters, they just keep ticking over, keep the weight off, and then when they can resume camp, it's about sharpening the tools and getting rid of some of the rust rather than going in there and doing a Kell Brook and having to shed 40 pounds just to make weight. Before then, you can start sharpening your tools for the upcoming fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Kell Brook, also Ricky Hatton back in the day. Shifting the weight, you are listening to episode 373 of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. As Ozzy heard there, Andy's with us as well. Rapping Rob Kelly has just stepped out for a minute. He'll be back soon. Me, Steve, as well, here with you. We'll be going on to the Morales-Pacquiao 1 fight shortly, also the super middleweight tournament, a few belly of the weeks, and more questions. Andy, let's get to this one from James Monaghan. James says, boxing has historically been linked to those in and around the criminal underworld. No comment. I was wondering what fighters, both modern day and from history, have had the most credible links to these shady characters. Off the top of my head, most famous, says James, which is one that I thought, Andy, was Sonny Liston and his alleged mafia links. I also read some crazy rumour that Povetkin was paid to fight against a bear by Russian gangsters. Are the guys aware of any similar crazy rumours or theories? Keep up the good work as always, lads. Your work during the lockdown has been brilliant, says James. One I was going to mention, Andy, was one that you made me aware. Well, I already knew about the story, but you reminded me during the week. This guy, Sergei Kobazev, a few people might not know too much about him, but he was a cruiserweight who got bumped off in the mid-90s, I think, by the Russian underworld.
Bad, eh?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, Wikipedia goes through it. I've read a few newspaper reports as well, but Kobazev was doing a bit of door work in New York where he was based. He'd only lost once at this point, ended up kicking out somebody. You probably know the story better than I do. And the next thing you know, he's in a body bag, the poor fella.
Yeah, he was buried in some grave and that. I was reading about it during the week there and stuff. I forget what actually happened, but definitely mob connected. He had Krzidze, who's just recently he got done on RICO charges in America. I mean, they don't fuck about with those charges. Like, it's everything. I don't know if that was the Russian mafia or maybe the Georgian mafia, I'm not sure. But obviously, the main one's Frankie Palermo, wasn't it? I think he had links to, what do you call him? Frankie Carbo.
Frankie Carbo, yeah.
I forget which one of the 5 families it was, but it was definitely connected to the mafia. I was actually reading that an old article on a Box News for about 1957 or something like that the other week there, and something along the lines of Floyd Patterson, I think, managed to kind of keep his way out of the title situation because he was heavyweight champion at the time, and he managed to kind of keep away for the IBC. Joe Lewis, when he was still champion, he was like thinking about retiring and stuff. He ended up becoming some sort of an employee for them and stuff. But as I recall, it's something like 80% of title fights in the East Coast, at least, were all run through the IBC, and that. So it was basically a monopoly there. And obviously, in the end, I think they had they call him that fought Basilio by Johnny Saxton. Sonny Liston, as you say, he'd been linked to it and stuff. They're actually they brought a new documentary. Actually, I recommend you watching on Sonny Liston. They still dispute that he was ever committed suicide using heroin and stuff. So it'd be interesting to go and watch that. And I think in the end, Carbo and Palermo end up getting. I can't remember what they go, but I think they end up getting their licenses revoked. I'm not sure if they end up getting jail time. But certainly got the licenses revoked, for what I can recall of that anyway. So yeah, it's trying to think of other fighters and stuff.
Yeah, they were slippery, them two, weren't they? Frankie Carbo and Blinky Palermo. LaMotta testified to throwing a fight for
Yeah,
Frankie Carbo, says Swaggy Taggy. So I think
fair
LaMotta
point.
was another, yeah.
Well, just as you mentioned that era, actually, I mean, Ray Robinson, I think he'd been approached by, I don't know if it was Carbo or the IBC and stuff, and I think they'd asked him, did they ask him to take a dive? They asked him to carry the fight, I think it was to take it to points, and he says, guys, I'm not interested and stuff. And I think it was because they respected Robinson so much as a fighter when they fuck with him. You know, he was the man at the time in that, and if he was able to play ball in that, there's no point strong arming him because, you know, as I say, he was the man. I tell you, there's a few Russian guys. I mean, I don't know if you know, like, see your tattoos and stuff. I mean, obviously, I haven't got any of that, but I noticed like the Russian mob have got like these star tattoos done on their shoulders. So it's easy to spot when you're watching the Russian cars and that, when you've got this spectacular tattooed fuckwit, all these tattoos, and that you can see the stars emblazoned on his, either on his knees or on his shoulders. Now that's when you know that they've done time as mafia and that. There's one that's on top of my tongue actually. I forget at the minute. Gregor, no, who was the one? Was it Gregor? No, who was the one that had the accent? Boytsov, the heavyweight. He was apparently tied to Underworld
yes,
as well.
That's right. Yeah, Boytsov
remember-
took a tumble down the stairs at some point. Didn't he, I
Aye,
think?
they said that. And another thing as well is, I don't know if it's true or no, but there was word of like up in Denmark and that, how like say the Hells Angels used to go to Kessler fights and that, because Kessler was like the big thing there and that, but they were known to, you know, go to his fights and stuff, and that obviously came about looking for bother and stuff, especially his big fights in Denmark, like at the stadiums and stuff.
I think some of the motorcycle gangs are heavily involved in the Australian boxing scene as well.
I was going to mention that. I remember there was a few years back there was a battle at ringside. I remember what happened in Argentina as well. Tables and chairs and people getting bottled and stuff. I'm trying to think more kind of mafia in that as well. As I'm thinking Russia.
Ruslan Chagayev, Andy MB says Ruslan Chagayev.
Yeah, tied to
Yeah.
What was it? Chechnya. He was tied to for a while.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was the big money man, wasn't it? Who was behind Chagayev?
It's the, what do you call him? Chechen president.
Yeah.
Radzov or Ridzov, I forget his name, but he's into his MMA and his boxing and shit. It's a place power for Putin, but I'm trying to think any other like organised crime stuff.
Just tying up on that Kobazev we were talking of, so he took John Ruiz's unbeaten record on a split decision, so he's obviously going places, beat Robert Daniels as well, but apparently, as I said, he was working security at a Brooklyn restaurant, and some mobster had to get thrown out after a fight, and they later confronted Nosov, his name was, confronted Kobazev. They ended up shooting him, I think, and as Kobazev begged them to take him to the hospital, they broke his neck, and then he ended up getting found in a shallow grave, so they sound like a good bunch of lads.
Christ's sake. Mad Russians for you. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, you could say at the end of the day, see back in the early days and that, all the promoters and that, they were all like no gangsters as such, but they were all wide boys and that, you know, they were always fucking looking for a fucking pound note. You know, they're wanting to get it by any means and stuff, you know, if it meant getting a fiver out of a fighter's pocket into his, you know. This was all before like all the reforms and stuff and contracts, and a fighter actually knew what he was getting paid and shit, you know. Yeah, I just found out that actually Palermo actually done 7.5 years.
Oh, did he? Right, okay.
After a 3-month trial in which US Attorney General Robert Kennedy served as prosecutor, Carbo and Palermo were sentenced to 25 years in prison. Palermo served 7.5 years.
Yeah, one of the guys is saying about just writing this in, Lucas Brown having the teardrop tattoo. That's like, it's like the Borstal dots and that, isn't it? The teardrop down the cheek or something means I think you'd untie him at some point, possibly. I don't know. Maybe I should get one of them. Who knows? It smells something funny here. I think someone's burning toast. Let's move on. What about Hater Dave? He's jumped in here talking of dodgy characters. Jewish Mafia in the house. How are you, Dave? Holding it well?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hear you absolutely perfectly. How's lockdown over in the good US of A? I suppose you got the guns on the lap ready to shoot some Corona?
It's in the gun safe, actually, but I've been thinking about wanting to get it a little closer to my bed, you know, so it's ready to go if some asshole comes in trying to steal my...
Trying to steal your shit. What about Holyfield Tyson 3, Dave? Are you getting all pumped up for that on pay-per-view?
I think he cut off there. I think his sound cut off as he was talking to you.
Yeah, he's gone.
I was trying to cover for him, thinking he would come back, but he says device is not connected.
It's clear he's gone to get the gun. That's clearly what he's gone to do. He was talking about getting it out of the gun safe. He wanted it closer to him. You've just put ideas in his head and he's gone to get the gun, Steve, clearly.
I know, yeah. Something's not connecting in the world of Hater Dave Lowback. Maybe we'll get him back at some point. A quick shout out to Kurt Sidsley, Ozzy. Do you remember Billy Joe Saunders was giving him the runaround? He just seemed like a nice little dude who knew what he was, what secrets he was harbouring.
See that fight? That fight for Saunders. Sorry, Oz. See that fight for Saunders? That was the ideal warm up for a Golovkin fight. Ideal.
Well, to be fair, Warren and Saunders can't be blamed for that one. That they decided to pick basically a Georgian head of one of these like gangs as an opponent. I mean, isn't he serving like 12 years in prison now and things like that?
RICO charges now, mate, about like something like 135 year plus.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, right.
I'm joking. I don't know, but it'll be something crazy like.
Yeah, I was going to say, so we're never seeing him again anyway. But yeah, the madman Avtandil Kurtzidze. But yeah, it's funny what people can get up to.
I love Mike Tyson.
Yeah, remember
that was
streaming in the corner. Who was training him?
I can't mind, mate. I can't mind. It was an American boy, was it? No,
it wasn't Andre Rozier, was it? No, was it Rozier?
No, somebody find that out.
No, he was with He was with Monroe, maybe.
He was no shouting to him, "Be Mike Tyson! Be Mike Tyson! I love Mike Tyson!"
I forget who it was.
I don't know. Someone in the chat will probably know. I think Dave's back with us anyway. How are you, Dave? Is there anything you want to bring up, Dave, apart from your dinner? You feel free to set the tone.
He's gone again.
The Yanks are having a mare with this StreamYard, aren't they? I mean, we seem to be getting on all right, touch wood. But Donny and Dave and Gabe, it's not connecting. I don't know. Not sure.
I know it's not great on mobile phones, I don't think, or if you're just relying on 4G or something like that. I don't know how good it is. But yeah, they're having a stinker.
Right, Dave, are you with us, sir? No, I think we've lost Dave. Let's move on while we try to reconnect with him. Andy, Joe Kennedy threw one in. Not sure if you've been, I haven't, but Jimmy's Corner in New York City, legendary boxing bar. The owner of Jimmy's Corner, Jimmy Glenn, died of COVID last week. He was a corner man back in the day, says Joe Kennedy. It's the best place in the world to be before a fight in Madison Square Garden. I know friends of the pod, Kev Byrne, David Mohan, Joe O'Neill used to frequent there. Didn't go there myself. But RIP Jimmy Glenn, says Joe Kennedy. He also goes on, Andy, to throw in a second portion. He was thinking of a dream corner team. We were talking about corner teams there, but he thought it would be a fun variation of the perfect boxer, the perfect corner team. Any excuse to talk about Norman Stone, says Joe Kennedy. So let's put our perfect corner together then, Andy, shall we? We've got Norman Stone thrown in there for excitement value. What about Tim Lane? Do you remember in the cage?
Oh, was it the Algieri fight against Pacquiao?
Yeah.
Oh, that was shit, wasn't it? Aye, but then the best it was when he gave the interview ringside during one of the rounds. That he's just gonna get something like he's coming out the cage, or he's just the leash is coming off and he gets fucking dropped within like 10 seconds. He just kept talking. I was like, you fucking idiot. So we're talking like bad or worse.
Well, we can put Joe was talking along the lines of this sort of dream fighter, but we can put our dream corner team, I suppose, for Shitfest. Right. I mean, he mentioned Norman Stone. Some of the listeners might not be aware. Stone, he was the trainer of John Ruiz. I think he was ex-military, wasn't he? He tried to pick a fight with Roy Jones's trainer, Alt Murkison, and I think Alt
he's ex-Vietnam vet.
Put him in his place, didn't he?
Alt Murkison's of ex-Vietnam vet, like did the killing in that M16 and everything. Who was... what's his name? We'll go for fashion. What about McClellan's old trainer? Him that had the sailor's hat on. What's his name? Stan something.
Oh, what was his name?
It's no Mitchell. Stan Mitchell, no. Stan Johnson. Stan Johnson, right. I think it is.
Yeah.
So we'll go for a ring attire. Either Stan Johnson or...
what about Joe Goosen, though?
Just what you say, Joe Goosen. Just what you mentioned that there.
The denim. Come on.
Joe Goosen. He wears it well. dream team. Well, for silence, you need to go for Lomachenko. His dad just doesn't speak, man. And he's like, I'm sure he's mute.
What about Eubank Senior? He stands there, sometimes throwing those punches.
Jesus Christ! Hi, Eubank.
Who is the trainer that keeps the Vaseline in the top of his fedora? I'm not sure about that one now, to be honest. There's a few characters. I remember a fight again, a point deducted years ago against Damon O'Kane for his corner's illegal use of Vaseline. They tried to put it on a cut mid-round. Marcus McDonough wasn't having that. Could maybe add that guy in. Yeah, there's been a few characters over the years, Ozzy, and if you want to jump in, maybe Dave Allen, he's up for a Bellew of the Week later. He could be the greatest trainer around, according to his new protege, Danny Morrell. Oh, Paddy Fitz. Yeah, I remember him, Paddy Fitzpatrick. Any Ozzy?
Well, I remember when we first saw Ben Davidson on the scene, when he was in the corner for Billy Joe Saunders against Artur Akavov.
Akavov, yeah.
And Davidson was awful. Absolutely. I remember, I was at that fight, and I remember seeing the feedback online, and it was horrendous. He got slated for it. I mean, what a turn of events now that he's gone, gone from being, essentially like a clown in the corner who had no clue whatsoever to obviously being in the corner for Fury's world title fight against Deontay Wilder. A couple of others the ones that you said already were amusing ones. I always think a lot of when these lads from Ghana come over, they always have eccentric cornermen and they love waving the towel in the face and soaking them in water, with the spray guns and stuff like that. They love all that sort of stuff.
I tell you one who you could put in. Actually, just remembered I follow him on IG. He's always making good barbecues and drinking beer and stuff. So he could do the dietitian and the cooking, plus also be my trainer at the same time. It would be Joel Diaz. I went train Tim Bradley.
That's a good one. Curly Watts went there, Andy, says Panama Lewis.
Oh no. Well, if you want to wear lighter gloves, I suppose, aye.
Good old Panama. Right, let's see if we can hook back up with Hater Dave. This is going well so far. He's there in spirit. How are you, Dave?
Is this working now?
We can hear you loud and clear. How are you?
I wasn't even using my fucking phone. I don't know what the problem is. Yeah, it's working. I won't. Whatever. Is this shit about Tyson Holyfield 3 true?
Yeah, it's signed and sealed, mate. It happened in Saudi Arabia on pay-per-view.
All right. Well, I'm a little skeptical because Andy just told me that.
Come on, Dave, get on it. Who have you got? Who do you think could take it?
Well, I mean, Holyfield's got this, just like he won the other two. But I don't think this is happening. I do not think it's happening. Holyfield will say yes. Sure, he'll say yes to anything. Tyson, it's going to take a miracle to get him back in the ring.
Well, the thing is, whenever he gets back in the ring, the question is, Dave, who's going to be in the corner with him? Because we're going through some of the shittest corner team combinations here. Curly Watts is thrown in System 9. Tundi Ajayi. Who would you have in your corner, Dave?
That's a good one.
Lions in the camp, mate. Oh,
forgot about him.
See, Uncle Raj. I was never a big Uncle Raj guy, honestly. I think Floyd learned all he knew really from his dad, and Uncle Raj would just say, "Box the motherfucker." And this is certainly no disrespect to the man. I mean, he did his job. He had a great one-liner. Don't know shit about boxing, but I don't think he was much of a trainer. Honestly, I don't. I think he was there for Floyd's sanity and keeping him calm and all that sort of thing. I don't think he didn't really give much technical advice. I think Floyd Sr. was the trainer really, and he trained Floyd his whole career, even though he wasn't really. He gets the credit for most of Floyd's career, I would say. And basically, the reason I have a specific issue with Uncle Roger because he certainly could have gotten Floyd disqualified when Zab hit him low and he just walked into the ring. That if different ref, that could have been a disqualification. Speaking of Zab Judah's trainer, also what was his name? Yoel or something?
Yoel Judah, yeah.
Yeah, he was a nut job. And one of the worst corners I've ever seen. I don't even know who's in it, but Antoine Eccles' corner during one or maybe all. I don't know if he fought Hopkins twice or three times. You know, he fought him at least twice. their corner was an absolute joke, dumping ice all over there. They couldn't even set up the stool right. It was an embarrassment. And I think Antoine Eccles could have really been something with the right trainer. He had some impressive talent. I liked Antoine Eccles. I think he might still be fighting, which is kind of sad. But
oh no, he shouldn't. God, I hope not. He must be about 50 now.
Yeah, I know he was fighting in recent years, but maybe not anymore. Hopefully not.
I remember years ago being at a show in the Holiday Inn in Belfast, and there was a Hungarian guy brought over, and he hadn't got a corner man. And our mutual friend Andy Paddy Cronin ended up in the corner doing the stool. Somehow, I don't quite know how he managed to do that, like, but yeah, that was quite the event.
Yes, times and that, eh? Just like all journeyman's and stuff, you know, anybody in the crowd gives a wee dig out. I suppose Paddy's licensed though, so he wouldn't be there without being a licensed second.
You would have had to, the board would have
Yeah.
had to have okayed it, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right, let's move on then, shall we? Ozzy, any interest on this one from Des, our friend over at Turtle and Bear? He says, can you guys recall a time when a promoter or fighter got it completely wrong with a mandatory or someone they bought in? The obvious one, says Des, was when they bought over Marvin Hagler, thinking he'd be a good defence for Alan Minter. Can you think of any more? Also, Des threw one in here and said it could also work the other way round. Gary Shaw and Jeff Lacey thought that Calzaghe was a slapper and easy pickings for their man. There's loads out there. I can think of one, Ozzy. Can you think of any?
Kovalev for Cleverly.
Good one.
They brought him over. He was the mandatory one. And Frank Warren felt Cleverly had the beating of him. Was Joshua mandatory for Charles Martin? Because that was a one that certainly worked out for the better.
So sure, it was.
Was he mandatory?
I'm sure. Well, I know the fight beforehand was a mandatory. So maybe I got that wrong then. Maybe.
I know he was high up with the IBF. I'm sure he was number one with the IBF, and whether I'm trying to think now. I don't think it was.
I thought they laid the cash down to sort of take the title off Martin. Thanks very much.
Quite possibly then.
They did, yeah, like $6.5 million US or something, or $4.5 million or something. He got to come over and lay down, didn't he? So
yeah, £3.5 million. I heard, but I mean, you never really know, do you?
Yeah. So yeah, it's all right. So scrap that one then. I'm trying to think of any others.
I've got one recently. Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez being fed, quote unquote, to Caliafai.
Caliafai, yeah.
Who's the guy who had the big upset at the start of the year? They had the knockout of the year. Is it Jez? What's his name?
Oh, Rosario against Julian Williams.
That's the one.
He might have been Mando though, was he? Can't remember. I'm not sure. It's all blurry. No, I'm sure he was way down in the rankings, actually.
What was the situation with Butte and Froch?
Yeah, that was not mandatory. I don't think it was.
Prescott and Khan. Prescott was mandatory, was he?
No, it was.
I don't think Khan had a title, did he?
No,
it was just a random fight, essentially.
If it did, it would be a bogus title he had then, probably.
Yeah.
Was Maurice Hooker mandatory for Flanagan?
It was for a vacant title, I think.
That was an embarrassment because they had the chance to make the big one with Krolla, right? And they totally blew it, and they both ended up losing their belts.
Well, that was I always blame Hearn for that because that should have always happened.
There's one from Swaggy. Who was the bloke that blasted out Linares in a round in his fight back after Loma? Jim McDonald says Cano.
Pablo Cesar Cano. Pretty good fighter, actually.
Steve, sorry, what was the question again? I think I maybe kind of...
I've deleted it, but it was guys who were bought in as a defence or bought in full stop, who the promoters or the fighter thought would be easy pickings. Like the way Hagler was bought in for Minter, right. The way Cal got Chocolatito, and the way Gary Shaw was so quick to bring Lacey over for Calzaghe. Casemiro bought over for Charlie Edwards, says Steve Brown. Andy Ruiz Jr., yes, that's a good one against AJ.
Ndongo. Was it Ndongo? Did he beat Ricky Burns?
Yeah, certainly did.
Was he not mandatory? And they thought that would be a walkover. And he
Casemiro for Tete Ozzy as well.
Yeah, definitely.
James DeGale's fight was it Truax? Was that not mandatory?
Truax, yeah, great show. Great show.
Oh, yeah, I just remembered one actually. Cancio for Machado.
Aye, they fought twice, didn't they?
Yeah. Jezebel Corrales against Uchiyama. Minter was solid, cut easy. Kovalev versus Cleverly.
I tell you what, It's a lower level, but Lenroy Thomas for Dave Allen.
Good old Lenroy.
Lenroy Thomas was brought over to get beat for the Commonwealth title, and then Allen was just an idiot and scuppered his opportunity.
Scott Cardle, do you remember his British title reign? They did. They basically hung him up by the haunches, trying to get him through that Lonsdale belt.
Oh, he had some shocking defences, didn't he? Oh, because I've just got the crawls just thinking about it. Actually, Jesus.
Alvarado as well. Yeah, the boys have thrown a few in there. Any others, guys, before we move on?
Fuck. Easy night.
If they come to you, Andy, you can throw them in. We'll move on, shall we, to Morales. We'll go on to Morales against Manny Pacquiao. That's our fight for this week. I've already got a fight set up for next week, which could be quite interesting as well. But we'll deal with this one first. One of the guys was talking about Eric Morales recently, so we decided to go back in time to a fight, which, if I might be right in saying, Andy, was his sort of Morales' last stand almost at that highest level when everything came together. I watched it again during the week. He was a worthy winner by the margins that were presented by one of the judges. I can't remember what scored in the end. But anyway, it was Morales' last true stand at that level, and it was 15 years ago as well.
15 years ago, eh? Jesus Christ, man. Where's the time I was going? Yeah, I had Morales. Where's my phone, actually? To get my card.
15, 113, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I had the same. 115, 113. Yeah, I would say it's his last great effort, especially at the I don't know. I mean, you want to kind of then go back and see what he did to Maidana, and what he did with Garcia in the first fight as well. Showed you his class and his staying power at the same time. But
he also I think he took Kano's O. He did a TKO on him.
Aye, right. That's right. Of course, he's coming off what now? He's coming off the Barrera fight, which would be the third one, which I think he lost the third fight, didn't he? Coming in, so really the Pacquiao fight, you could have maybe you wouldn't have blamed him actually if he wanted to take an easy fight in that, but he's back in the ring. What is it? 5 months later, fighting Pacquiao, up and coming, and he doing the stretch of that fight. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. No one obviously want to make excuses in that for Pacquiao or whatever, and that, but I did think the cut was giving him a fair bit of problems at times. At the same time, I just think every time that Pacquiao attacked, especially the first 2-3 rounds maybe, Morales kind of like took his time a wee bit to just try and figure it out. But then whenever Pacquiao seemed to stun him or hurt him or land just one or two too many punches, Morales was just basically kick into gear, and that was a great thing as well, as when he did attack Pacquiao. Pacquiao couldn't really kind of fight on the back foot. He didn't have a counter punch in the back foot. He just basically came straight back in a straight line, hands up, try to block shots and stuff, and they were up against the ropes. And Morales was trying to kind of work on him and stuff. Maybe he was. You could see Morales obviously in the past that he was a very good boxer, a very good jab and that, but he was I thought definitely taking the counter punching role. And in the end, I think he kind of made Pacquiao think twice at times for coming into actually kind of landing on him from time to time. I think Morales' his timing, especially if we're into kind of round 4, 5, 6, and that was very, very good. I think it was around about this point I thought Pacquiao was getting a wee bit more cautious. You could hear Roach telling him to try and get in get on the jab and that. And as the fight was going on, I think Roach kind of knew that we're kind of losing the fight. As I says, I think the cut had a bit of a problem or a bit of an effect on Pacquiao.
It did, yeah.
And it was a bad one. And I've no idea why the doctor was in the corner for that long to check it, actually. I mean, it was a quick look. You're good to go on whatever. On he goes. What else? As I say, going down the stretch, I was surprised at Morales because I thought he held his ground, a fair bit. And he was landing some heavy blows. Just going back to the early half of the fight, actually, I remember Pacquiao landing some body shots from, I think it was round 2 or round 3, and I would say he hurt Morales, actually, certainly kind of, stunned him and kind of kept him bent over a little bit. But then, as the fight went on, it was at least twice, possibly 3 times that I can recall Pacquiao getting visibly wobbled off Morales. And I say he was starting rounds good, especially in the late half of the rounds. He had a good start to round 9. Pacquiao's come back strong at him towards the end of the round and stuff with some decent flurries and that, so that could have been a swing round as well. Round 10, more shots for Morales and stuff, and I thought he was pressing the fight as well. Another solid round, 10 and 11. Good jab, right hand again by Morales, and I think, to me anyway, Pacquiao needs a knockout, which I think he was more intent trying to get early half in the fight, whereas I think he kind of knew, especially with the cut and that as well, as he wasn't going to get a knockout, but he knew he had to try and do something. And incredibly, believe it or not, actually, I mean, Morales' corner telling him just, box and move or whatever and stuff, and just, take no chances. What does he fucking do? Turn southpaw and starts fighting Manny Pacquiao. Southpaw for I think it was a good 2 minutes. I think he fought him for. So that shows you the balls in him as well, and that he's got, and his own ability that he can go in there, go up against, the upcoming, top fighters and stuff, even at his point, and show him what he was still about. Because people, as I says, after the fight and that, getting stopped in the 10th, getting beat off Raheem, getting beat off Pacquiao in the 10th, and then quitting in the 3rd. And then I think he had the fight the year after that, and he got beat in that fight, and that was washed up. And you kind of worried for him kind of coming back. And I was concerned that he was going to get a bad beating of Maidana. And then you seen the state of that eyeball in the first round, and then how he turned that round. I had that draw in the end, but again, as he went through that fight and that, you could just see him getting a foothold in the fight gradually each round, and it just showed you what it was all about in the end. That these old dogs and that, who train and live in the gym other life and that, they can always find ways of winning fights. That was the thing about Duran, and that's why Duran was so long longevity in that he had just a natural fighter, and that's what Morales was, a natural fighter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Dave. Coming into the fight, Pacquiao, big standout performance, big breakthrough performance really in Texas against Marco Antonio Barrera. Then the fight against Marquez where he put him down those, the 3 times, and Marquez came back to get the draw. This was the last big stand of Morales. Excellent timing as always, but it shows the job that Morales did, Dave, given what Mark Boxio's saying there after the Morales loss. This is a point I was going to make as well. Pacquiao went 6 years, 15 fights undefeated. One of the great runs of recent times. Any thoughts back to the first Morales-Pacquiao fight, Dave?
I didn't watch it this week like most of you guys did, unfortunately. But my memory of the fight really stands out. Morales had a good jab, and then the 12th round really stands out because Morales was outboxing Pacquiao, and for some reason, I think he wanted to show his Mexican balls or something. He decided to stand and fight. He got his ass handed to him in the 12th round. I think he was hurt pretty badly. I don't remember how close it was to his stoppage, but he definitely lost the last round. Pacquiao was just unloading on him with hooks. And to be fair to Morales, he kind of let Pacquiao into it. There was also controversy surrounding the fight with the winning gloves. Where I think Pacquiao blamed because Morales, I think, demanded those, and Pacquiao insisted that he wears Reyes punching gloves in the second 2 fights.
Yeah, winning are like the Japanese sort of pillow gloves, aren't they?
Yes, and in the first fight, both guys wore winning gloves. The second fight, Pacquiao wore the Reyes gloves, and Morales wore the winning gloves. I think it was to protect his hands, and obviously dull the power of Pacquiao. And in the third fight, both guys wore the puncher Reyes gloves. Was not enough to save Morales. Although he made a decent stand of it for about a round before he got dropped on his ass. It's like, yeah, I can't beat this guy. But yeah, the first fight was good. The first fight may be the best one. The second fight was pretty good too. But yeah, the first fight he had some good action. It was about a 7-5 fight most likely. That 12th round really sticks with me though, because that round kind of told the story of what would be the rest of the trilogy.
Yeah, let's just unmute myself. Yeah, one of the funny things, Rob, I suppose, after this fight was that he went, Morales, after beating Pacquiao and looking so impressive, went in with Zahir Rahim. Off the top of my head, Rahim was a decent, fleet-footed boxer, very quick, wrong style for someone as leaden-footed as Morales. In that fight, Rahim had lost once to Rocky Juarez, I think controversially, but Rahim absolutely gave Eric the runaround. 1 fight removed from Eric doing the business on Manny Pacquiao. What do you remember about that first Pacquiao-Morales fight, Rob?
Well, I just rewatched it, so I pretty much remember everything because I only watched it yesterday. So,
good man.
But, no, I think it's well, I think I had it like after 6 rounds. I had Morales 4-2 up. Manny Pacquiao, as Andy mentioned, body snatching a little bit in the first 2 rounds and really fucking crippled Eric Morales, who both of them, you'd have to say, Their poker faces are absolutely unbelievable. Very, very good at hiding their tells when they're hurt. Pacquiao, memorably against Margarito, kind of wilted against the ropes at one stage and then just fucking sprung back into life, firing off punches like piston-like punches. But yeah, it was an incredible fight. The two of them. I mean, what can you're looking at that fight when it was made, and you're thinking, fucking hell, man. Eric Morales just had a trilogy with Barrera. Pacquiao has his own win over Barrera. Controversial draw with Marquez, but they've all been absolutely cracking fights. And a minute and 30 seconds into that fight, you see the two of them exchanging, Pacquiao backing him up and Morales returning fire. And that became the story. I think Lampley and the lads alluded to the fact that Morales had watched I think a couple of things helped him in the fight to get the win. They said that Morales watched the Marquez fight 8 times. So it was becoming clear after about 3 or 4 rounds he was going to let Manny punch and then look to take him into deep waters and try and drown him. But as well as that, he was going to be accurate with the timing. So I always thought there was a couple of ways to beat Manny Pacquiao, which is way, way easier saying than doing. But if you could back him up or if you could time him and punch through his combination. So Morales was doing bits of that and kind of showed the blueprint to beat Pacquiao that nobody could do for another 6.5 years. So absolutely, I can't speak highly enough about Eric Morales as a fighter or Manny Pacquiao. And but I do think looking at that fight and looking at Manny on the back foot, I do think if they had fought prime for prime, him and Floyd, I think Floyd would have walked him down. And I don't know if he'd have stopped him, but I think he would have walked him down towards the second half of the fight. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Anyone who hasn't seen that fight, go and watch it. You won't be disappointed. If there's any casuals getting into the sport and they're only young kids now and have kind of come in the Joshua era, go back and watch that fight because you won't be disappointed. You'll see Eric Morales uses his experience, his old man. And as well as that, I said 2 things I thought help him. I think because he was bigger at the weight and he had to take more weight off, I think the fact that he took the fight just 4 months after the third Barrera fight actually helped Morales. Because he'd had a full camp beforehand, took a little small break and was back in training. And I think that helped him make weight. He went up to 140 on the night. Manny Pacquiao up to 139 pounds on the night in his first venture out at 130. So absolutely unbelievable fight. The three fights worth watching, but the first one you couldn't begrudge giving Eric Morales the decision in that, even though it's a close fight. I thought he was a clear winner in a close fight and used all his experience, all his timing, all his ring craft to kind of. I think he was maybe just past prime and Pacquiao was just coming into his prime.
Absolutely.
But he used everything he had to get the win.
Yeah, no, I agree with Rob on that, actually. Just showing their career trajectories a couple of years later. 2007, just before he took 2.5 years off, Eric Morales lost to David Diaz, who was a decent, solid, dependable kind of a fighter, but someone who wouldn't have beaten Morales at Morales' prime. And Manny Pacquiao gratefully took that title off him a year later off Diaz by stopping him in the infamous post-fight interview. David Diaz was just like, he was just so fucking fast. I thought that Freddie and Manny were both hitting me from different angles. He was so fucking fast, he said to Jim Lampley. That was an indication of what the fighter that Manny Pacquiao became. Before we move on, Ozzy, do you have anything you want to add on this particular fight?
Not really. I thought the cut made a difference. I think was it round 5. Certainly thought it made a difference. And it was a bad cut as well. I remember a couple of rounds Pacquiao's face was just covered in blood at times because it was pouring out of that. But no, what a good fight. And I echo what Rob says. If you've never watched this fight before, go back and watch it. It's all action for 12 rounds. I think from the off, they essentially teed off on each other. Pacquiao invested in that body early on. And Morales certainly used all of his experience. Bear in mind as well, he was coming off a loss as well from where his body had been battered by Barrera. But no, it was unreal. Pacquiao showed a very good chin. Was certainly hurt at times as well. But what a fight. What a good fight. And as we said, they went on to have a trilogy. Third fight obviously didn't last that long. But overall, no. Great fight. I think you can't argue with the result. It was very close. I think it would have been one round either way. Like I said, no one would have, been upset or disappointed, or if it was a draw. Overall, great fight. And as I say, if you've not watched it, get onto YouTube and watch it because you won't be disappointed.
Absolutely, well said, Ozzy. Excuse me, Andy, you're asking me about the fight for next week. This will cover a few bases. People are always asking us to discuss the life and times of this interesting character, shall we say. Edwin Valero versus Antonio DeMarco. We'll be covering that fight next week, Andy.
Excellent stuff, mate.
Lovely job, Edwin. Quite the character. Oh, I had a question for Hater Dave Lowe back there. He seems to have nipped out to put the dog out. So I think I'll go to you, Andy, on this one instead from Connor Brennan. Connor said last week, Errol Spence has been seen training and he looks great in the videos and pictures I've seen. I noticed, though, that his coach and padman was standing in the southpaw stance repeatedly. In or around the weight, I reckon there were only 3 southpaws or switch hitters who he could be possibly training for and who would be a realistic match for him. These 3, says Andy, are Crawford, says Connor, sorry, Andy, are Crawford, Pacquiao or Josh Taylor. My question is, do the panel think Spence would go 3-3 against these opposition if he got back to his prior crash level? So are we seeing Josh Taylor, Crawford, Pacquiao? Is there a method to his madness training in the southpaw stance?
Yeah, because Spence is a fucking southpaw. No?
No, he thinks the padman is set up as if Spence is fighting against the southpaw, which leads Connor to believe that maybe Crawford, Pacquiao, or Josh Taylor could be potential opponents. And out of those 3 guys, Andy, who do you how do you think Spence would get on? Would he be 3 for 3? I mean, can he even walk properly? Who knows?
Well, I'm understanding a bit about the training because I understand it in that I've heard like southpaw pads and that. I know Billy Nelson can do southpaw pads and stuff. So probably the trainers stand in the southpaw position because Spence is a fucking southpaw, not having to do with southpaw opponents. So as for the opponents and stuff, I mean, so Taylor, who was the other 2, mate?
Taylor, Pacquiao, and Terence Crawford.
Look, I'm just gonna have to be up front here and just say this, right? Terence Crawford, Errol Spence has currently got 3 surgically implanted posts in his mouth, right? I've got no idea. I have got no idea how this guy is going to take a fucking punch. I've got no idea if he can take a punch. We have no idea where he's at the minute. Yeah, that's we've mentioned he's come out the roof of a sports car, right? Been mangled up, somehow got out of it, and he's required surgery on his mouth and stuff. I really don't know. I mean, he's going to be at the ring now for almost 2 years before he gets a chance to fight. Is he one? I just don't know where he's at, mate. And to be honest, nobody does. I mean, if he's at the ring for 2 years, coming through what he's been through, and you think about Crawford, pound for pound best, right? Josh Taylor, who's probably coming into his peak at the minute, his propensity swelling and cut right about the eyes now. Who's the third person right against? Sorry,
Pacquiao, Crawford, and Taylor.
Well, everybody always felt that Spence would beat Pacquiao and stuff, but I've got to say, I mean, Manny's Manny. I mean, he's still doing it. Okay, he's well past his prime and stuff, and Spence might get him at the right point. But I've just got to go back to where is Spence at this point, and I don't know. So I've got to say that all 3 of those guys could not easily, but you know what I'm saying. They could beat Spence considering the situation. Now, if he told me this or asked me this 2 years ago, I'd have said without doubt, Spence would be in all those fights. But this is a guy who's apparently got issues with alcohol. He's got problems with his weight. I told you he made, what was his last fight? Was it Garcia? He came down for £185 to make weight for that fight. If he's been doing that,
it was Porter, right?
Porter, sorry, £185 he came down for in that fight. And he's on Twitter the following day afterwards says, "This isn't fucking use for having to dump £25-30 in between fights. I've got to keep my ass in the gym." So what is he, 30, 31 now? And he's only just now getting serious about the sport. I mean, that's Kevin Mitchell way of thinking. Supremely talented, but a complete fuck up out the ring. And then what happens when fuck up happens? I'm going to take it seriously. And then before you tell me, your prime years is very, very short, or just gradually just pass you by. So again, I've just got to wait to see what happens because he's going to want a tune-up fight. But I got to say, at this point, just take Crawford alone. I'm taking Crawford to beat him at this point, just based off what we know at this point. So definitely Crawford. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Taylor and Manny, well, definitely. I'll give Manny a chance as well. Speed. Maybe got a bit of timing and power about him still. He might be able to kind of drop him a couple of times, who knows. And Taylor just loves a fucking scrap, man. So if he's really want a dog fight, if he wants a fucking another dark night and a visit to the hospital, Taylor would probably go in there and give him a proper dogfight. So that would test to see where he's at mentally as well after all the shit he's went through. But yeah, it's up in the air. It's up in the air. I wouldn't make him favourite for the Crawford fight at this point. The other two, I would say Manny 50-50. Taylor, I'll probably give him a slight edge for Taylor, but I just think it's a dog war, man, and I just don't know where he's at, really.
Yeah, that's the thing. You get to round 9 or 10 against a big unit like Josh Taylor, especially the version that went in against Prograis, and all of a sudden you're feeling the old pains of the frigging 100-mile-an-hour crash going through your mind. I don't think that's anything he needs. But then again, like the boys are saying, Andy, if you put him in against soft touch and he looks like shit, then all of a sudden guys are sitting ringside going, oh my God, this guy's finished. He's
going to need a soft touch, mate, because the way things are, I mean, I don't know what Dave will tell us better, but, you know, I was looking at some football stuff today about when the leagues are starting back up, and it's between the end of May and mid-June. Football leagues are mainly starting up in Europe. But that's football, you know, as we're talking about, you know, what's happening with boxing and stuff, you know, is he going to get a sparring session? He's going to get a proper training camp. It's okay, you know, being physically fit, but are you fighting fit? It's always the old adage, are you fighting fit? He done the sparring, but as Spence came out and said that himself, he's fit, but he can't spar. So can you imagine once he gets these implants, whatever, I mean, these posts taken out his mouth, what happens if he takes the fucking first jab when the fucking teeth go again, or the jaw goes, or the mouth goes? Who fucking knows?
That's what I mean. Look, David A looked great coming back for the 2 Bellew fights. Probably in some of the best shape you've ever seen him, aesthetically. But in reality, his body was falling to pieces. And Andy's right. Spence cannot go into any sort of fight without doing any sparring. Imagine that. Imagine he takes a shot and boom, jaw goes again, or the mouth goes or something. He's going to be knackered. So he's one that certainly needs sparring and things like that. I mean, probably needs to pass a medical first, but he's not got any of those documents in place yet. And he'll certainly need to pass a medical and, you know, pass all the relevant brain scans and things like that, because it was all swept under a big carpet, wasn't it, about this? It went very quiet. You didn't hear a lot of it. You didn't hear very, very much detail whatsoever. And now he's back, you know, in the gym and training and stuff like that. He's got a long way to go yet, but I'm with that. I would take all 3 of those fighters over Errol Spence at the moment. We're going to take 3 fighters that have been fighting regularly and keep himself in shape, you know, and they're all naturally at various different stages of the career, or a bloke who nearly got killed in a car crash, and the last time we saw him was essentially in a heap on the floor, and now he's in a gym looking good. But anyone can look good when you're not being hit back. You need to see when he gets punched, and who knows how he'll react to that.
Well said, boys. Let's move on then before Bellew of the Weeks and we finish up. Let us go over the latest instalment, or the latest instalment rather, of our tournament. Everybody knows the drill by now. The heavyweight winner was Larry Holmes, cruiserweight winner Evander Holyfield, light heavyweight winner was Roy Jones Jr. Onto the super middleweights this week. Everybody is in their prime unless otherwise stated. You got 2 minutes to state a case. I'm sure the boys know exactly what's going down. Let me just bring up the banner here then, Andy. You're unmuted, unsheathed, ready for this first one, quarterfinal number 1 of the super middleweights. You have 2 minutes or less, depending on what you want. Quarterfinal number 1 is, let's have a look, Joe Calzaghe against Graciano Rocchigiani. Rocchigiani didn't build up too much of a body of work at super middleweight, but anyway, Calzaghe, Rocchigiani, Andy.
I'll go Calzaghe on points. He was outwork him, I think, as you say. Rocchigiani was more a light heavyweight, so I'm thinking, you know, if it's prime, he's coming down in weight, because I think he fluctuated between the weights and that as well, I'm sure. But the bulk was spent at light heavy. Yeah, I'm going to say, I think he tests Joe, but I don't think he had the power as well to kind of really, you know, upset him and stuff. And
no,
to be honest, other than the first Michalczewski fight, whereas he was losing the fight, I think, on points, but that was a bullshit DQ. But I'm going to say anytime he stepped up in class, and that he kind of struggled. And he beat Michael Nunn, but that was like, you know, a faded Nunn, I would say. So I'm going to say Calzaghe outboxes him something like 116, 112, 117, 11 type scorecard.
I agree. I think 117, 111, even 118, 110. Calzaghe would neutralise him. We agree on that one, Andy. Joe Calzaghe goes through to the semi-finals then. Hey to Dave, you know the format by now. Talking of somebody who didn't have too much of a body of work at super middleweight, prime though, A man in his prime who was excellent. Gerald McClellan going in against Chris Eubank Sr., not Junior, Dave. Chris Eubank versus Gerald McClellan, quarterfinal number 2. 2 minutes, who you got?
He picks these fucking very carefully, don't you, Steve?
This is
yeah. Exactly. It's a hard one, isn't
it? You give Calzaghe the easy matchup there.
Yeah.
Shit. This is a dream war, really. I would have to favor McClellan. I think the guy had a beast of a chin, and the injury may have been a bit of a fluke against Ben. I mean, but he's the guy had taken bombs his whole career, and probably in the Crunk gym wars as well. He sparred with Roy Jones, James Toney. I mean, apparently he was even doing okay against Roy Jones, winning rounds sparring. That win of Ben's over McClellan is really is something historically special, because I think McClellan was highly talented. Though he does have those 2 weird decision losses. I don't know. I don't think he avenged either one of them. Sort of like just on the way up the ladder, he has those 2 decision losses to guys who I don't even remember their names. And then of course the Ben loss, and then now we see him, he's in a chair. Some would argue that's where he belongs, considering his outside the ring activities. I wouldn't go that far, but I would say McClellan does beat Eubank. Both of these guys were actually kind of pricks in their own way, weren't they? Both guys, good power, both guys tough as nails. But I think McClellan would be able to stop Eubank.
Oh, that's
Stop him? Ooh.
Big call, that.
The guy, I mean, I don't think anyone, he may be the hardest super middleweight puncher in history.
Well, I don't know. He only had one fight.
It's not been shown that against the top talent, admittedly. But the way he took out Julian Jackson with absolute ease twice, it was styles make fights, and that was, and it was a later version of Jackson. But that he was an obliterating puncher.
Ken, the only stoppage on Eubank's record was Carl Thompson up at cruiserweight, and that was on a swollen eye. I'm sure
that was the eye, wasn't it? He wanted them to cut the eye, didn't he? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, he's winning that fight. Well,
Carl Thompson was no slouch when it came to punching, especially for a cruiserweight.
God, no, flip me. No, I think Eubank lasts the distance, but McClellan wins, I think. Okay, right, Ozzy, let us go on to quarterfinal number 3 for you. A bit more up to date here, 2 minutes or less. The man, the legend, Carl the Cobra Froch against the mighty Sven Otka.
International superstar.
Yeah, Froch, comfortably, to be honest. Look, Otka was okay, but a very padded record. I don't think he ever fought outside, or was it Germany?
Gifts galore, by the way. Christmas was every time he fought, by the way, that wanker. I hated him.
I mean, the one standout one was Robin Reed.
Yeah, he was the one that the ref admonished him for punching him, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, that was a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. I just think Froch is an all-round better fighter than him. Look, Froch has certainly got his, vulnerabilities to an extent, and he can be outboxed, but Otka isn't the person to do that. Could Froch have got him out of there? Quite possibly. It's not unthinkable.
Prime Otka was slippy, though. He was a good technical boxer, wasn't he, Prime Otka?
He was a good amateur back in his time.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, though, he didn't really have any power. And I think, look, could he outbox Froch for 12 rounds? Not in my opinion. I think it might have took Froch a little while to get going, but I think some people do underestimate how good Carl Froch was. Granite jaw, and I think he could have just walked through Otka in the end. I mean, we saw the way he finished off Jermaine Taylor, with seconds to go. He had a brilliant engine, good punch. I think. I certainly think it'd be a Froch win. Maybe Otka maybe hits the floor, but ultimately survives. But I think it'd be 4 or 5 rounds difference in it.
Yeah, I think it might have gone pretty similar to the way Froch against Arthur Abraham meant, possibly.
I've got a thing. I'm going to say Otka by robbery.
Well,
I was going to say hated him.
It depends where it is. Actually, it depends where it is. Because if it's in Thingy, if it is in Germany, Froch would have to nail him to the fucking canvas to ensure that he can get a win there.
It's quite ironic actually that we're talking about gift fighters, gift decisions and that when you've got two fighters in the same division who, got their fair share of gifts. Chris Eubank and this fucker Sven Otka. I remember one of the Charles Brewer fights. I remember one of the scorecards was fucking shambles, man. Brewer won something like 117, 111 on one card, and then fucking Otka had like 160, 112 on the other. I'm like, fuck off.
Did Otka unify in the end, Andy? He beat Byron Mitchell, didn't he?
He beat Glenn Johnson and all. Well, no, he didn't beat Glenn Johnson. That was another gift that he fucking got. But the Byron Mitchell unification, that was another fucking robbery. It was another gift decision.
I'm not so sure, to be honest with you. I'm not so sure, no. And the Robin Reed one was a close fight. I know that the whole fuss about Roger Tillerman, but it was classic Otka. As the fight went on, Otka boxed his way back in, didn't he? And Reed started to tire. So I don't think that was as bad as people say. But yeah, Otka was boring to watch. Apart from when he banged out Tony Mundine, who'd boxed his ears off for about 9 rounds.
I'd probably need to say Frotch by points, actually. Just because
I think points. I think Otka was slippery enough, Andy, to go the distance, to be honest with you.
I think so. And Frotch is... It's like everything else. People say Frotch is a brawler. Frotch is actually a decent boxer. You didn't win world amateur medals if you can't fucking box, man.
Exactly.
So he was a decent boxer, good job in that. Just he was fundamentally he wasn't great, but what he had, he made it work. So.
Okay, let us move on to quarterfinal number 4. Let me just bring it up then for you, Rob. 2 minutes or less. You know the drill by now. Quarterfinal number 4, super middleweights. James Toney against Nigel Benn. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, as James Toney once said to Nigel Benn on the Jonathan Ross show with Mickey Rourke beside him, I ain't dug the weight.
I remember that.
I ain't dug the weight
before the rematch.
Before
the rematch.
You British fighters are all bums.
Yeah, right. Drinking tea, sipping tea. I ain't dug the weight now. Ryan Barkley. So yeah,
back when he could actually talk,
Yeah, now he looks like the Black Santa Claus. But I think at the moment, at the time, I think James Toney would have blown Nigel Benn away at 168. Absolutely blown him away. No disrespect to Nigel Benn. Great fighter in his own right. His legacy is complete without a fight against James Toney, although it is one at the time that many people thought himself and Eubank ducked, especially after that video link. James Toney, man, supreme talent. I mean, we're talking about making the perfect fighter a couple of weeks ago. How many of his attributes could he easily slide in there? And you could say he's number one in any of them, like his undefeated record after losing. I think the Drake Tadzi, wasn't it? The Adzi. I don't think he got beaten again for another 7-8 years or something like that. Never been stopped. Hardly ever dropped or hurt. It'd just be hard to see what Benn had against him. And as I said, mentioning perfect fighter skills, the lost art of the right cross, James Toney, the master of it. He was brilliant as well at like touching the opponent with the left and swinging the right hand over like he was pitching a baseball. And I just think he would have been able to find Nigel Benn too easily and giving him a bit of a dazzling boxing masterclass. I'd say James Toney possibly by stoppage there.
One interesting thing you mentioned there as well, Rob, just harking back to the time they got on the Jonathan Ross show, Mickey Rourke and James Toney across on video link. Do you remember how weird Chris Eubank Senior was on the whole thing? Do you remember he sat there and then at the end he tried to come in with some bullshit?
Yeah, he didn't want to speak, and then James Toney said, "I'm going to slap your mother when I see her as well." He said, "This guy is talking about my mom." James Toney would have had the two boys for value. I think Eubank and Benn. I'll go far as say one of my dad's old catchphrases. He would have beat the two of them on the same night. I think James Toney miles ahead of Nigel Benn.
Jason Tucker is in the chat. He just woke up. No, Jason, Mike McCallum isn't in the tournament. Mike McCallum is not in the tournament. Left in the tournament, we have Joe Calzaghe, Gerald McClellan, Carl Froch, and James Toney. Oh, Hater Dave, quarterfinal 1 to you. Semi-final even. Semi-final number 1, Hater. Joe Calzaghe against Gerald McClellan. Joe Calzaghe against Gerald McClellan. Dave, who you got?
This will be impartial.
Well, this is a tough one too. And Calzaghe should consider himself lucky that I'm even saying that. McClellan beat him. Calzaghe was, he had his pluses, but his best win is Kessler. Hopkins, I think, beat him. He got dropped by old Hopkins. He got dropped by shot to bits Roy Jones. He didn't even handle Roy nearly as well as
He could get dropped though, Kawasaki. Like, he did have a
Glenn
poor chin.
Johnson did. Yeah, he could get back up too. He had some heart, but I think McClellan beats him because he would catch him with the big stuff eventually. This is actually a tougher fight for me to pick than the last one because McClellan, I think his work rate would wither a little bit as the fight went on, and Calzaghe had that good work rate. So if Calzaghe could withstand the first 6 rounds without getting dropped like 5 times, then I think he would get back into it, win some late rounds. Whereas Eubank, his work rate was not the best either. In fact, that was a factor in a lot of those decisions that were probably gifts on his record, just not working enough, kind of just lackadaisically sliding around the ring. So I think McClellan wouldn't have as much problem with that. But with Calzaghe's work rate down the stretch could be a problem. I think McClellan still beats him. I think he drops him maybe 2-3 times in the fight.
Yeah, MB, I'm with you. I'll go to Calzaghe. I think he would come on down the stretch.
So I was going to say, I mean, I'm not one to kind of piss on the parade and that, but McClellan only had 1 fight up at super middleweight. You know, his best work's doing it at middleweight, and even then, it's two washed up fights against Julian Jackson, Gilbert Baptiste. I'm trying to remember, did he fight John Mugabe at one point? It was opposite Hopkins. I'm thinking about. I think he fought a few Roy Jones upcoming fighters and that as well as, but you just wonder how he'd actually last. I mean, he was a big dude, big puncher and stuff, but Calzaghe had fought big punchers and he could always adapt. I was listening to Michael Kessler talking to Tris Dixon just during the week there, and he said, the one thing with Calzaghe was, he figured me out. He figured me out in the end and stuff, and he made slight adjustments and stuff, and I just couldn't deal with it.
Started touching him to the body, didn't he? Mid-round?
Mm-hmm. I just think, unless McClellan can bang you out of there, it'd be interesting to see, 6-7 rounds later, Calzaghe still working away and stuff. And I'm not saying, look, Calzaghe didn't have a bad chin. He got dropped a few times and stuff, but when he got dropped, that's when he got up and he decided to get right down serious and get to work and stuff. But I wouldn't say it's cut and dry, but I don't know. I would probably need to side with Calzaghe, actually, to be honest. But Dave's got the final say on this one.
Yeah, Dave's gone for McClellan. Jason Chukwu is not happy with all the names I've left out, but he doesn't understand the concept that it's 4 quarterfinals, right? So you can only pick 8 fighters. That's why Sugar Boy Malinga's not in there. That's why Mike McCallum's not in there. That's why Adonis Stevenson. You can only pick 8 fighters, Jason, okay? Cut from quite a big pool.
Yeah, and we discussed light heavyweights last week, so what was Adonis Stevenson then?
I can only fit so many in, okay? And Sugar Boy Malinga ain't going to be one, trust me. Sorry.
Fucking Sugar Boy.
What the fuck would I put Sugar Boy Malinga in for?
Let's put Glenn Cratley in there when we're talking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we have value in the cruiserweight, so
we need Andre Ward.
Dingan Fabella. Hey, there's a name for the past, Steve. He was welterweight champion, right? And then he beat Cratley for the super middleweight title at fucking 40 or something like that. Fucking Jesus.
Yeah, Sonny said you should do these every week. We have been doing them every week. Well, most weeks anyway. We're on to the middleweights next week. Chuck, tell you what, Jason, why don't you DM me the middleweights for next week on Twitter, right? You can DM me the 8 middleweights for next week on Twitter, and I'll go with your picks, okay, Jason? There's your homework for the week. Right, semi-final number 2, Rob, is between Carl Froch and James Toney. I think we already know where you're going on this one.
How would I love to see that, man?
The mindfuck would be amazing.
Oh, I would have loved to see that. Just the fucking whole spectacle, the build-up. See James Toney trash talking Froch to see what his response would be. And I think Tony, I don't want to fucking just, I on this pod, like the amount of times I say you could nearly have a James Toney counter rather for the amount of times I mention him here. And as I said before a million times, he's one of my favorite fighters to go back and watch. But I'm not biased. So if I thought Carl Froch would beat James Toney, I'd say I think Carl Froch would beat James Toney. And Carl Froch, as good a fighter as he was and as hard as nails as he was as a fighter, I don't think he could have lived with James Toney. Could have hit him from fucking anywhere, and he wouldn't back James Toney up either and push him around. He'd have the advantage there too, and I think he would have absolutely drubbed Carl Froch. Possibly decision, but a one-sided, lopsided one.
Lovely jubbly. So the Carl Froch, Joe Calzaghe final that we were anticipating has not taken place, Andy. Instead, the final decision shall go to you. The final is between, interestingly enough, James Toney and Gerald McClellan to decide the super middleweight number one. You have 2 minutes or less. Go ahead, sir.
When I seen the list, actually, I thought we were going to go down the Calzaghe Froch route just because. But yeah, I'm going Toney. Guy, we talk about chins of granite. You know, that's one of them. Without doubt, you know, a guy went up to heavyweight, took some serious bombs against Giroff at cruiserweight, took bombs against Jones at middleweight, fought. I don't know if about a prime Barkley actually, but you know, if you want to see technical ability on the inside and how to ride shots and that's the fucking guy to watch. And I know Toney wasn't always on his A game every fight that he fought in, and there was problems with weight and discipline and stuff. But when he put it all together, and we're talking prime for prime in this type of fight, I think Toney would just. Skills, verbals, the mindfuck. I just can't see McClellan budging him, to be honest with you. I mean, it would take serious fucking power. Again, as I said, have you ever seen Toney dropped? I've never been knocked out.
No, he's never been knocked out, and he's only lost 10 fights out of 70.
He was dropped by Roy Jones. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, aye, but it was like kind of back foot type thing. It was kind of leaping left hook. I remember that. No, you mentioned it.
He dropped his hands in that, and Jones was light and quick, wasn't he? And got off on him.
They were clowning each other.
Yeah, they were trying to. And Jones got the better of it, basically.
You want to say as well that McClellan definitely holds in the defence. Long arms, long reach, but a lot of the time his lead hand was around his waist, and he got clocked several times in the bench fight. I don't know how early he sustained damage in the bench fight, but as the fight wore on, you could see Ben could find him a lot more. I think that Toney was brilliant at finding spaces. You'd have to say he'd have all the advantages in that fight, I think. Apart from maybe power, McClellan probably has a punches a bit harder than him, but 60 or at 68, I think Toney beats McClellan.
See, the thing is with McClellan is he hasn't really got a thick body of work to kind of judge him off like kind of like strong opponents and that. And then you go to Ben and you got the tragedy on the back end. So people were thinking like, what if and that? But just think about what you saw and you think about what Toney does and stuff. Chin, IQ, ring generalship, defense, and again, as I say, if you can take a shot, it'll do well. But to say Toney could ride shots and stuff, so if you're landing a powerful shot and you just ride the shot at the same time, it just takes the power right out of it. So, and Toney would come back off that, and even if McClellan got him up against the ropes or in the corner and that, you can see Toney. That's his office, you know. That's where he'd be kind of like digging in the body shots, the uppercuts, and let McClellan try and punch himself out, and then he would come back with his own counters and stuff. I just see Toney winning this. I'll say semi-close on points because I think McClellan would make it competitive enough. And his power shots might, you know, sway some judges and stuff, but I think Toney's just his full package would certainly win the day for me, in my opinion. I would say Toney on points.
I agree. Toney was an excellent fighter. He was getting a bit boxed by Michael Nunn, and he had to come back for that one. But yeah, Toney was a great fighter. Curly Watts has upped to the game here on Chukwu. Chukwu's doing the middleweight picks for us next week, and Curly has suggested that Chukwu could call in. So we're going to get Chukwu on the line to do the middleweight tournament next week. So things are going up here. Great times indeed, Andy, as Chukwu makes a return to the pod. No falling asleep.
Yeah, and the star dog, baby.
Good old Chukwu. Right, let's move on then, boys, shall we? Episode 373, Bellew of the Weeks. Aussie's here, Andy's here. Hey to Dave Lowback. Good to have him on, and rapping Rob Kelly, as always. First nomination, just leave him alone. Tony Bellew coming out of retirement to take part in the Join For Me #Team Right Boxing Edition World Championship. Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. was the main man, Tony Bellew. Come and work out with me, says this guy Mark Wright, whoever the hell that is. Maybe it's the former Liverpool defender, who knows. These legends this week on my Instagram buzzing for this week's training. If you know boxing and love
Sky
boxing.
off only way is Essex, isn't it?
Is that right?
Right, okay. He's with that tasty one, isn't he, off Cardace Street? What's her name? Kevin Keegan's young one. It's not Kevin Keegan's young one.
Michelle Keegan.
Yeah, that's his missus, isn't it? He's hanging out with all the celebrities. It was funny as well, actually, on that training session. They had a bit of a Q&A, Mark Wright and Tony Bellew. And Tony Bellew came through training despite obviously having an injury in his back from towing the company line because they asked him who was the best heavyweight in the world, and he said he has to say Fury, But at the same time, you have to say Anthony Joshua will beat Fury. Um, he's just going to say that Joshua has too much for him. But obviously, Fury is the number one heavyweight. But Joshua, who's under Matchroom fighter Anthony Joshua, who Tony Bellew will be covering as a Sky Sports pundit, Bellew believes that he has the edge. But leave him alone, man. Will you? Don't be fucking dragging him into fucking boxercise sessions with the lad off the only way is Essex. Just leave him alone.
Tony's relationship with AJ is so one-sided, though, isn't it? You can just tell Tony thinks they're busy mates, and AJ's sort of like, yeah, whatever type of thing, Rob, you know?
He said, we're
Tony
mates,
who?
we're mates, me and AJ. Obviously, me and AJ are mates.
Oh, dear. Nomination for Tony, anyway. Let us just change this. Yep, there we go. Abu Scouse nominated that. I mentioned this one earlier. Aussie, actually. Welcome to the team. Danny Morell has turned pro. This is Dave Allen's mate. I'm really excited to be working with MTK Global, says Morell. They're the best management company in boxing, and it makes sense to join them after Dave joined them. He then goes on to say, I'll be working with Dave, who I see as the best trainer and the best coach in the world. And with Dave working with Jamie Moore, I'll be working with Jamie too, which is great.
Is that true?
Yeah, it was on the press release, yeah.
Oh my God. I don't get it. I honestly, I mean, Morella's got an opportunity here because he's Dave Allen's sidekick, and he's turned over with arguably the biggest managerial platform in boxing. So I mean, look, he's got an opportunity there. He's been given an opportunity, and will get opportunities more than fighters 10 times, 20 times better than him. But we'll ultimately see what happens. Let's just hope he doesn't take any of any defensive tactics off Dave Allen, which is don't block any shots, just use your head.
There you go, Dave, the best trainer in the world. Talking of Anthony Bellew, Rob mentioned this earlier. Old Tony says Tyson Fury is the number one, but Joshua will beat him. Tony Bellew, after 6, AJ is in trouble. 60 thumbs up and 77 thumbs down for him. Ben Thorns is also going in on the main man himself. I have to put Fury as number one, but I still think AJ beats him. Styles make fights, and I think AJ's style is all wrong, Andy, for Fury. I think he would catch Fury, so relentless, so powerful, so athletically explosive and dynamic. I don't think Fury could keep him off, says Tony.
Tony Bellew said that.
Yeah.
There was a time Tony called me out, or called us out, I should say, actually, and said, when you can do it at my level, you can have an opinion. Hey, come on, fuck. Explosive, you know. We've been serious. Too explosive, too powerful. But he's actually just backed up himself. He's backed himself up by saying that Fury would. He thought that Fury would probably win, but he had to back Joshua or whatever. And that the man's gone. I mean, I think he must have hurt his head when he got flung out that helicopter. I think must have got a wee bit of concussion when he hit the water or something, like a fucking speeding bullet. What all that shit, man.
I love how that's written by Jeff No Quotes Powell too.
Good old no quotes. Leave me alone to enjoy my family and my mates. Tony looking to live the quiet life.
Evening, Ed. Eddie actually put it on him in their little Jewel podcast or their interview with Bisping. Eddie, who definitely doesn't listen to the Boxing Asylum podcast, said to Tony, "Didn't you say that you just wanted to be left alone?" And he said, "Yeah, mates, but you just got to eat. You know what I mean? I've got a lot of kids you got to earn, mate." So he's renouncing his left alone, and he's basically fully admitting now to whoring himself out to any old shit like catchphrase, the SAS, and Mark Wright's fucking morning yoga sessions.
This may have been years ago. I think it was still when he was an active fighter, and he was in the rivalry with Cleverly, and he said he'll go to anything. He'll go to the opening of an envelope. And it was from an article and said Bellew, who was at the opening of a pizza restaurant. And
Oh, why, that was David Hay. Him and Hay were back and forth.
Oh, dearie me.
Well, Ben Thorns isn't too fussed anyway. He says, where do you start to pull this waffle apart? The fact he's an AJ Sky Dick rider, the fact Fury called him Price's gay lover on Channel 5, the fact he rates Fury number one but thinks the guy is better, or the fact nobody will leave him alone, and the AJ gasses after a round. So not sure about this relentless comment either. So Ben Thorns isn't too happy about that one. Let's move on. Marcus Bellinger's nominated Cash Ali. Me against Mike Tyson could be bite of the night. I think Den's onto that one as well. Get Cash Ali against Mike Tyson on, says Dennis Hobson. No Consent Boxing has nominated the boxing enthusiast, saying that Joshua never got dropped by Vladimir. Weapon of the Week, says Ted Barrett. Going for the old weapon of the week here, more like Bellew of the week. That's a reply to Ritson. What are we on here? Oh, yeah, Ritson against Prograis. Apparently, Aussie, they're talking that fight up. Lewis Ritson against Regis Prograis. Well, apparently, Sports Ticket Store jumped in, and he reckons that Prograis will get done, Aussie, by Ritson in 6 rounds. Ritson within 6. Facts, says a Sports Ticket Store.
It's just a laughable opinion, that. We saw Lewis Ritson get beat up off Francisco Patera. Regis Prograis would annihilate him. It just would be. It would be a dangerous fight. That would be a brutal, brutal fight for Ritson. Not one that I want to see anyway.
Good old Jason. Jason remembers some mad stuff. He's calling me out here. Apparently, something to do with Buffon, the goalkeeper, and Karius. And I legitimately have no recollection of this, Jason. Maybe we had a chat at some point. I really have no idea what you're talking about, to be honest. Talking to you about, would have saved that or something after the Champions League final. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Something to do with Bellew or something like that, when he said Carey should retire or something like that after fucking up.
Oh, was it? Right, okay.
And then obviously he's like, he gave his opinion, but he doesn't even play that sport or anything like that. And then he's telling us to shut the fuck up because we don't play his sport, you know.
Yes, sorry. I understand now, Jace. Sorry, I thought you were smashed again. Hater Dave said he would go to the opening of an envelope. He will go absolutely anywhere, said Bellew, who was speaking to celebrate the launch of Papa John's new deep crust pizza.
You were right, Steve. It was up for the hate rematch.
Sorry, Jason. I thought you were calling me out there. Had to get down and dirty with you for a second. Can't be called out on this pod. Teofimo Lopez says, shout out to the champ, Devin Haney.
Yes.
Devin Haney's having a nightmare lately, isn't he?
That was a belter picture by me.
Listen as well.
See, when I seen that tweet by him, I'm like, shout out to the champ. And I'm like, don't tell me he's reversed back what he just said. And I clicked on the picture. And where the WBC is on the green belt, he's got an envelope with a letter coming out with the @ for Gmail. So it's fucking.
Does he listen? I wonder, does he listen? He's calling him the 2-time email champ this week on Twitter, Teofimo Lopez. So I'm already high on Lopez, but I just got higher on him after that. Like, absolutely brilliant.
Me. Oh, I hope he stays in the wait for the Lomachenko fight. Like,
yeah, Lewis Kelly nominating Haney for that one. Ian Morton has nominated David Hay for tagging in a gymnast when talking about Joe Frazier. David Almond has nominated Tyson Fury for saying that him against Anthony Joshua will be between 2 undefeated champions. Regis Prograis again wants Ritson. Prograis says when boxing returns, he'd love to come back to the UK and face Lewis Ritson. Who have you got, Rougarou or the Sandman? JS Park has nominated Conor Benn, or Sky Sports rather. Cringeworthy stuff, he says. Conor Benn has done a sit-down interview with Sky Sports this week. And it says, I know when to retire, Conor said sharply. I know to listen to people. The Conor Benn of 2020, age 23, was never the man that he should have evolved into. He is fearsome to make eye contact with. There is an intensity about his body language, and his exterior has been crafted carefully to send a message. A bird of prey stares back at you as it sprawls across his throat. No fear is also tattooed in plain sight. He is dripping in gold chains. When his shirt is off, Destroyer is tattooed across his back and Fear God on his midriff. He stands in a tracksuit, clenching his fist like he means business at all times. I have turned into, says Ben, this.
I thought you were going to say B.A. Baracus at one point there.
No mention of the beard.
Fucking hell, and the mohawk.
That sounds like a good paragraph that your man that has the tattoo could get tattooed on the other side of his ribs.
That's right. Like in scroll writing.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Actually, do you know what? I've changed my opinion a little bit on Conor Benn because I listened to an interview with him out of pure boredom between him and Johnny Nelson. And, he said he's openly admitted he's overachieved by becoming a professional in the first place, that he came from a very privileged background, used to be in the skateboarding, never thought he'd make it as a fighter. And said that after the Paynar fight that he came back to the dressing room kind of crying, like I said to his old man, like, this is not for me. Like, and, he's kind of come back and, I'd say he's improved. I wouldn't say he's any great shakes by any stretch, but it's tough to get in there, and he didn't have to get in there. So, you got to give him at least a bit of credit for that. But what kind of shit is that? He's very image conscious, as you may have guessed, with the British hair clinic beard and that. But they asked him in the interview, like, where did the fighting come from? And he was like, yeah, no, I don't know where all these tattoos and gold chains have come from. I used to be a privileged kid. So obviously he's chasing some kind of image and trying to back it up maybe by being a fighter. But let's make him and Josh Kelly and see can he do something. I'd watch it for sure. But who wrote that fucking paragraph, man? Holy
Emotional,
shit.
hashtag emotional content, Rob.
Unbelievable.
That's a good one. Harry Mullen be turning in his grave. Talking about turning in graves, Juan has had to go at Sky Sports for talking about Corrie Sanders. Saunders is dead now, at least respect his legacy by saying the late Corrie Saunders. Oh, that was a bad one, wasn't it?
Oh my god, imagine he didn't just fuck up once, he fucked up twice in the same tweet.
Good old Juan. Box Report TV rather, at Real Boxing Talk 2 has nominated the man himself, Josie Vijay, THD, PhD. Old THD was calling out Andy Lee this week. Andy Lee, you are wrong about your assessment and prediction of Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. AJ is mentally tough. You do not understand Africans' phrase of mind being an Irish. Fury cannot do what he did to Wilder to AJ. He will go the distance with Fury. Let's bet on it. The doctor going in, Rob.
Fuck off, man.
No,
Seriously.
say Andy has a few quid, man. I don't know if you want to bet against him. Like, I don't know. Maybe the PhD wages is good in Nigeria, though. You know what I mean? So I don't know. The doctor could be a high roller himself. But yeah, well, obviously he's right. We don't understand being an Irish. Being an Irish.
The doctor doesn't mess about. The doctor's based in Texas now, you know. He's neighbours with Gabe.
Hanging out with Gabriel.
Absolutely.
He's going to lose the African mindset if he's living in Texas.
Oh, well,
Gabe would have shot him by now if he came face to face with him. Especially had the hood on, you know. Gabe had the hood on at that point.
Sorry,
the pillowcase.
Gabe's probably got that on all the time now, hasn't he? With the old social distancing and all that.
He'd have strung the body up just to drip dry the fucker.
Oh, he's bad, like. Oh, sorry, right. Moving on, Andy. You nominated one for Mayweather Promotions.
Yes.
Tank. This is from Kenny Ellis, the coach of Tank. Tank is one of those fighters that comes around every 25 years, like a prime Duran or Hagler. They don't just touch you with their punches; they try and go through you. Well, I mean, if he's going in against guys like Hugo Diaz, then they're all the more likely to fall.
I mean, I just go back to the Gamboa fight. I mean, that's a guy who ended up doing his Achilles. I forget, but I think it was late in the fight anyway. But he can't make weight, and he looked like shit as well against Gamboa. And just get him in fighting people around about his roughly about his same size and roughly around about their peaks, and then we'll see where he's at. But managed the same breath as Hagler and Duran. They're two bona fide legends, man.
Floyd gets a mention this week as well because he said he never heard of Ryan Garcia. And Ryan didn't bathe in tears this time. He shot back at Mayweather to say, "Well, you knew who I was when you were trying to sign me." And I have to say, right, as much as a little shit he was for doing that thing where he fucking texted that girl that stupid message, I hope he makes it, man, because he's a star in the making. Like, they love him in the States. He said as well, like, I just kept winning fights and I became a kind of a social media star. I didn't mean to do this, but I'm taking it on or whatever. And I tell you, he's living in the gym when fucking Gervonta is living in fucking White Castle or some one of these places and piling on the weight. So I don't know, I think that fight's still pretty far away, but Davis is starting to go up, but I think Garcia will go up as well. I think they will meet at some stage, and I'd be very intrigued to see that fight.
Especially if Garcia's enjoying those Reynoso burgers, Andy.
I was going to say the Reynoso burgers and stuff like that. They were well known in the beef. But I was reading as well as apparently, you know, Canelo takes no shit in training in that. If you're training with him, you're expected to fucking put in the work. And if he's like that, if he's like your mentally driven type character and that, then it's going to want, you know, you train people like that, you know. You want to be like them. You want to, you know. You look at that guy.
On you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. And people are now questioning now is because he's put on muscle. He's only what is it, 21, early 20s anyway, and that's just still growing.
You say that like when Davis was training with Mayweather, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah. I just think, you know, he's going to actually grow. What is he, lightweight? And that I think he'll top out at welter, definitely.
I see him at 47. Definitely see him at 47, and they're going to match him right, like, and he's going to be a big money maker in the sport. It's going to be massive for the sport too to have a fella that puts asses in seats like that if he can continue doing the business in the ring.
Oscar needs a replacement for Canelo when he chucks it, because Canelo is golden boy just now, isn't he? I mean, he is the business for golden boy at the minute.
Expressed a little bit of discontent with Oscar.
Yeah, too. That's right.
I was
He
wondering.
got the big contract, though. He got the big contract for himself out of it. He negotiated a re-signing with Oscar, and he's on the big bread now. Like,
To what degree do we think Oscar has built Ryan Garcia? You know the way Aaron built Oscar, like throwing the underwear and all that. Like, to what degree is Oscar responsible for this kid's,
He's hidden
overnight?
for the start, I'm sure. He hidden for the start. He's, he just tapped into that kind of followership that he's kept all the fights running about California and that, so probably stronghold.
Teenage girls on Instagram and all that.
Yeah,
Oscar
exactly,
sort of
yeah.
appealed to the that demographic of the day as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he was prone to get his toy out from time to time at weigh-ins and stuff. So
Thing is, though, Andy, what I'm interested in is the way the Canelo is the big cheese with the Reynosos. They've now taken on Ryan Garcia. They've taken on Oscar. What do you call?
they've got Martinez as well.
Martinez. They've got
Andy Ruiz.
Andy Ruiz,
Jr.
Oscar Valdez. At one point, will Canelo say, hold on a minute, this is going to be like Freddie on the West Coast here, whenever he was frigging training every man and his dog. Canelo's going to say, whoa, I'm the big dog here. You've got all these other guys as well. Can you stick them all in?
Nah, I think Canelo would have a say in that, like, without doubt. Canelo will, he owns that place.
That's what I mean. How many more people can they afford to take on, you see, before it becomes a problem?
Well, you never know. Maybe Canelo's behind it. Maybe it's his stable of fighters. You never know. At the end of the day, the Renesos would be nobody without Canelo. Let's get that straight. I'm not saying that, but you know what I'm saying is they wouldn't be.
I think Canelo will look to get into promotions down the line. I think he's not going to fight for him. I think he maybe get another 3 years of Canelo and he'll go into promoting.
I think after this contract, Canelo will probably walk. I mean, you would, wouldn't you?
What is it? Go at 3, 4 years?
He's been fighting for about frigging 20 years and he's earning $35 million a fight. Why would you get punched in the head for that shit, man?
He's been fighting for he was like 15. Was he another turn pro at 15, 16 or something like that?
There you go, 15 years.
Turn pro 15, yeah.
Canelo will be done after this contract expires, I'd say.
Or he goes on his own. Oscar gets cast aside and he gets to pick whatever fights he wants. Well, he does that anyway, I suppose.
Yeah.
But can you imagine just keeping all that bread to yourself, though? Don't know much
Absolutely.
more you need,
Yep. Anyway, moving on. Craig Marsh 88 has been nominated by Sean Stevo for saying that he would rather have an Anthony Fowler signed glove than a Joe Calzaghe one. That is all the ones I've got, actually, Andy. Any of you, any nominations from yourself, sir?
Well, I see Linares called out Ryan Garcia and stuff, just bullshitting and stuff, saying like at 21 I was world champion. So just basically owning them, basically, what you achieved at 21 so far. So basically shut up until you win something. You got the Sanders, Devin Haney. This one to Eddie Hearn, actually, this is my only one I think of the week so far. She's talking about this fight camp coming back into thing. So he's quoted in the Daily Mail by saying this, right? He says, "We cannot just bring back boxing with a dark studio. We have built our product around razzmatazz, the sexiness, and the drama." I've never seen sexiness in boxing, I must admit. It's all been about building that moment for a fight, so we cannot afford just to bring people out like a game show. We want to create a gladiatorial environment, that will not only ensure compelling viewing, but also ensure fighters can perform at the highest level. What a pile of fucking pish. I mean, that is just something out of a fucking committee meeting. Well, give me some buzzwords here. Like, okay, I'll write that down and fucking go and say, but razzmatazz and the sexiness and the drama. Yeah. Fuck off, sexiness.
The same fella who said that. Same guy who said that Dana White hosting fights on Fight Island for the UFC would be in bad taste.
That's a good
point.
Bad
taste, but it's good.
Just
good to have it in your dad's back garden. That's a lot better taste. Have a fight. I tell you, it wouldn't be the first fight I saw in a back garden, so I'm all for it. But hypocrisy is what it is. Evening Ed.
Evening Edward. So I put Eddie up for that one. But I think I'm going to vote for Bellew this week. Just solid, man. Absolute pound for pound solid.
I like Danny Morell's. Ozzy, if you've got any saying that Dave Allen's the best trainer and the best coach in the world.
Yeah, he's my pick, actually. Bellew's a definitely close second, but to say Allen is the best trainer in the world and he's never even coached is laughable.
Some good ones. Any from you, Hater Dave?
No nominations. I was all set to give it to Teofimo Lopez. Actually, like one of the few positive Bellew of the weeks, because I enjoyed that picture he had of Haney. But after I heard that Eddie Hearn spiel, I mean, that's just embarrassing. I think boxing has really missed a trick here in waiting. I mean, they can still capitalize on it. Don't get me wrong. There's still not a lot of live sports, but the way that UFC came back was the first really to come back with that fantastic event. Live pay-per-view was a really good card. I bought it myself because I was just like, I don't usually buy pay-per-view, but geez, I was like, we need live sports here. And I bought it. It was good. Boxing could have, I mean, you're a hater! In a different, hello, Russ, in a different position than UFC, where there's like unilateral control over like all the fighters and all that. But,
do you think they're having the fight in Barry Hearn's back garden because Barry Hearn doesn't know anyone with an island where they could host the fights?
Not anymore, anyway. He's probably on the island, is he?
Oh, dearie fucking me.
They didn't actually use White Island for that pay-per-view, though. They just used the stadium in Jacksonville, Florida. And to be honest, the lack of crowd didn't bother me at all. It was kind of an interesting experience hearing like all the extra breathing and the fight sounds that you usually miss with the roar of the crowd. So yeah, it was a good event, and boxing, I think, should take it. It's not too late to capitalize on this. I don't know if this nonsense from Eddie Hearn, after he basically called Dana White out on how terrible it was, is gonna be the right way to do it. But at least do something, because now is the time to take advantage. Get some boxing fans. There's no other sports going on. Boxing's in a unique position where it doesn't require a whole team of players. 2 teams of players really, just requires 2 fighters and their corner guys and some medical personnel. Yeah, but we can make it happen.
Heavy breathing, Dave, and lots of swearing. It sounds like you're describing when Tommy went to pay-per-view with Coogan on this very channel, which you can find in the archives.
I never met a Sri Lankan who can fight, mate. Where's Tommy? Where are you, Tommy? We're going to have a scrap at Quig Frampton. All right, we can.
Oh man, Tommy, yeah.
That was really embarrassing for Coogan.
I felt your muscles. Oh, I'll have to put that one back up again. Anyway, sorry, Dave. I can't really remember anything you said, but I'm sure it was interesting. Any nominations from you, Rob? Any nominations, Rob? Don't think so. What about Dave? How much did you have to pay for that pay-per-view?
For me,
No, you got nothing, no?
I only paid $20 because I split it with some friends.
Wellington. No, it wasn't. It was on here. Right, okay. So I am going to go for Conor Benn, Andy. I liked that little article about Conor on Sky Sports, dripping in gold and tattoos around his throat.
Oh yeah, but no, I'm gonna go for Bellew this week.
One for Bellew, one for Conor Benn article. Ozzy, you've already gone for Dave Allen and Mr. Morel, I believe.
Correct, yeah.
Absolutely. Hater Dave, so you were saying that it was $20 for the pay-per-view, and how did you order it? Was it online?
On ESPN Plus, the app.
Okay. And who are you going for this week for Bellew of the Week?
Eddie. Because of that, the utter hypocrisy and the sexiness and the razzmatazz. Bullshit.
I'm going for Eddie as well. No, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying, Andy, Chuck Wu's going on about Tommy versus Coogan was on the Asylum. It was a
live podcast.
Yeah, it was a live podcast on the Asylum, wasn't it?
He's talking shit. He has a bad memory.
Too much weed, man. He needs to calm the fuck down.
Thought it was.
Sleep.
Thought it was going mad there. He's trying to get into my head here. Chuck Wu's living rent free. Rob Kelly, who are you going for this week?
Yeah, I had a couple I was going to nominate. I was going to go down the Sam Jones and Kinahan Road, but we haven't got time.
No.
We'll get to it another time. No, I just think the way he said that, like, I understand the science behind all the MTK fighters coming out in defense of Kinahan with this power play fight being made. It's no secret. Aaron's been referencing it. It's national news here. But the likes of Sam Jones, like I said, mentioned before, I know people up in that area, like, and you wouldn't be saying which side, who you thought is a great fella to anybody. let alone putting it on Twitter. So it's kind of easy for him to be saying that kind of stuff. But look, that's it's another side issue. As I said before, MTK are here to stay and they're part of the sport, whether you like it or not. But it has to be it's tough, man. It's between Bellew towing the company line on the fucking Only Way is Essex guys live Instagram on a fucking yoga mat, or Eddie Hearn for, as Dave said, just the sheer hypocrisy. And I said it at the fucking time. As soon as Dana White was making him fights on the island and he came out against it, I was like, he's fucking raging. He didn't take it out first. It's like if he could get a fight on an island and get away with it, he'd do it. So he's gone one better. He's gone to his element. He's gone John Fury style, and he's doing it in his back garden. So literally this is going to be fight where fellas say I went to the other lad's backyard and they're talking about the promoter. Fucking unbelievable, man. Fucking neck on him, like absolute neck on him, to come out with the Sweet Caroline and the drone footage and everything. Holy fucking shit. Unbelievable. Evening, Edward.
Evening, Eddie. Congratulations, Eddie. You are Bellew of the Week for episode 373. Been a while since you were nominated. I'm sure you don't give a shit. Okay, boys, let us finish up for the evening then. Thank you to everybody who's come on. We've managed to do 2.5 hours again. I know, Mark, there's a little PayPal donation button there as well somewhere. I don't know where it is, but we've got it set up anyway. You can throw us a few shekels if you want to. I don't know about Super Chat. We can't do Super Chat because we're not allowed to monetize because we got banned that time or something. But there's a PayPal donation if you want to chuck a few quid in there, Mark. We can sniff a bit of glue or something. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, thanks to all the boys who have jumped on tonight. Ozzy was with us. Andy was with us as well. Hey to Dave Lowback. Always good to hear from you. And rapping Rob Kelly. Jason's in a little world of his own. Good to have you with us there, Mr. Chukwu, Ames, all the boys, John Wayne, Swaggy Taggy, Mark Boxio, Reverend Pickles. I'd love to know what's going on in Jason's head, man, but all those rabbits working the controls must be going overtime tonight. Thanks to Tom Powell as well for jumping on with us. We'll catch you all for episode 374. Same time, same place next week. I've been Steve Wellings. Bye.